cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. But crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Black and white.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to 2022, and welcome to Montreal. Welcome back to the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup. This is round 4 of the championship, the start of the second quarter of the season. My name's Alex Everett of Crest Autosport. Welcome along to NXTGEN Racing TV on Facebook or Crest Autosport TV on YouTube and Twitch. And joining me alongside me, as usual, it is the delightful Paul Walsh. Paul, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you, Alex, and it's great to be here as always, particularly after all the treats and treasures of the Christmas period. I'm sure I've put on a few pounds, as have, well, many of us, but I'm excited and looking forward to some fantastic racing at the Montreal-based Circuit of Gilles Villeneuve. How about yourself?
Yes, not too bad, not too bad. My belly's a little bit closer to the steering wheel that's right in front of me at the moment, so that's a bit alarming now you've mentioned that. So, time to hit the gym tomorrow, I reckon, as soon as we're done commentating tonight's racing. So, we are here tonight at Montreal, also known as the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, named after the legendary Formula 1 driver, father of Jacques Villeneuve, of course, who won the 1997 Formula 1 World Championship as well. Montreal also famous for being Lewis Hamilton's first ever victory in Formula 1 back in 2007. How long ago does that feel? Plenty. But Montreal here in Quebec in Canada, eastern Canada. It is the Notre Dame Island on the St. Lawrence River. And this track is situated about 200 kilometers east of Ottawa City, and it is not too far from the border with the USA, about 100 kilometers north of the border, sharing the state of Vermont. So quite a popular track we're at tonight. It's been hosting the Formula 1 for many, many years. It is a regular occurrence on the calendar. We haven't been there on the Formula 1 calendar for quite some time due to the pandemic. Don't mention the C word. But very, very excellent circuit we've got here tonight. Narrow, temporary circuit. Not technically a street circuit, but a temporary circuit tonight, Paul. Should be interesting in these MX-5s as they are notorious for close battling, and this track is not so much notorious for close battling, but I think it's going to force it today with its slow corners and just tricky nature of it.
Oh, most definitely. I think the biggest thing that's going to be tested today is the brakes on these cars. And we did see, particularly at Knockhill before the first of our breaks, just how over the course of the longer races, particularly in the race number 3, the 25-minute race, how the car seems to start to wear down in that final 10 minutes. And that's going to be the major challenge here, given the variety of corners. But there's a lot of major braking zones, whether it be into turn 1 at Rivarage Centre, alternatively at the hairpin at turn 12. And also, of course, the World Champions chicane at turns 13 and 14. I think it's going to be the management of the car which is going to be just as critical, and also being brave on the brakes to make an overtake, because as you say, Alex, quite difficult to overtake here, and even in these small machines it's all about being brave and getting yourself on the inside at the right time.
Absolutely. And about being brave, it's also about being brave in the championship at this stage. We've got plenty of action to look forward to in the months to come, actually, in this series. But we'll run through the championship standings as they are coming into the second quarter of the season. Mikey Doble leads the Pro Category Championship at the moment. He has dominated this season pretty much. A fantastic start of the season for him. He's not racing tonight. I think he might be watching the darts. I don't know why darts is more important than NXTGEN Racing, but each to their own. But Mikey will be taking his drop round tonight, and we'll surely see him back next week at Daytona. Lee Holmes in second place. A very good, consistent season from Lee Holmes, and I believe he picked up his first win last time out at the Red Bull Ring. Adam Delmont doing very well this season in third place, just 11 points down behind Lee Holmes. Deegan Fairclough in fourth position. Deegan has been one of the talking figures of the series. He is really putting in some good performances. A little bit of bad luck here and there for him, but he is one everyone has got their eyes out for. The host of the series, Jamie Dory, in fifth position there on 171 points, followed by Nick Clibbens in sixth, Sam Smith in seventh, Bobby Thompson, who might be returning tonight, in eighth position, Ben Bennyworth in ninth, and James Clark rounds off the top 10 for the Pro category. And Paul Walsh is going to talk us through the Pro-Am category championship standings coming into tonight.
So going into round 4 tonight, we currently have Craig Cockrell leading the ProAms on 224 points, and really it has been a very close fight between the top 3, with Cockrell coming out on top after the opening 3 rounds. But let's not count out Lee Horn and Aaron Thompson, both on 217 points, for Lee Horn ahead on countback only at the moment, and both drivers just as consistent as Cockrell, and really they have been inseparable, the 3. Outside the top 3, Wayne Douglas there on 191 points, the Douglas Motorsport driver, putting in good performances, had a little bit of bad luck, particularly at the start of the season, did get involved in some of the scrappiness at Silverstone, but indeed it's a case that championship campaigns are built to last, and could it be the case that Douglas will be picking up even more points tonight? Nigel Stock in P5 there, and it's the case Nigel Stock on 175 points, really marking the major gulf between what is the top 4, if you will, and then the rest of the pack. But then again, Nigel Stock does have an advantage of 17 points over 158-point man Liam Silkstone in P6. Glenn Humberstone in P7, giving that pursuit 10 points further back there in the 88 Tech Machine, with John Burnham, Mark Oliver and Callum Jenkins complete in our top 10 in the Pro-Am class. But it's really the case that right now in the Pro-Ams, anybody outside the top 10 could get themselves into that top 10 tonight. Perhaps excluding Michael Key and Nicky Meredith, given their low point scores at this point in time, but that's how close it has been in the Pro-Ams to fight for the top 10. Back to you, Alex, for the AMs.
AM category championship is as follows. There's a few less drivers in this category, but it is very exciting to say the least. David Whitehouse at the top of the standings. He is battling it with Paul Scott at the moment at NXTGEN Racing Green, and there's points separated by just 7 points. It did swap hands. David Whitehouse took it with his brilliant meeting last time out at the Red Bull Ring. Tom Delaney, who had a very good Knock Hill round in round 2, didn't have such a good round at the Red Bull Ring, but he is 1 round down on the drivers ahead, so he definitely has an advantage to this point, and we'll see how that pans out as the season goes on. Liam Tack in 4th position with Mark Arrowsmith, very new to iRacing, remember, but in 5th place, a good start to him. Dustin Lamb in 6th place, followed by Martin Smith, Simon Robson in 8th, and in 9th place it is Steve Thompson. So there are your championship standings coming into tonight's round. And tonight's round is at Montreal. It is the 4th round of the season. We started off all them weeks ago, nearly a month ago now. Silverstone National Circuit was round 1 of the championship, followed by round 2, still in the UK for the Knock Hill International Circuit. Then we headed over to Austria for the final round of the year. For the Red Bull Ring GP circuit. Today we're here at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, and next week we're heading downwards to Florida for the Daytona Road Course, and that is the road course that we know so well with the Daytona 24 Hours, which is coming up very shortly, both in real life and on iRacing. Bathurst Mount Panorama will take place for round 6 of the championship to see us into the second half of the season, which will then start at Monza in Italy. Round 8 will be hosted at Snetterton 300, followed by Zandvoort at round 9 of the championship. Round 10 for the final quarter of the championship will be hosted in Brazil, Interlagos. Round 11, the streets of Long Beach in California. And then West Germany, Nürburgring VLN layout, which will be a different layout meeting to the rest of the races in the championship. It'll be a 2-hour endurance with double points on offer for the drivers. Plenty to look forward to in the months to come. And the format for the racing for this MX-5 Cup, we have 2 15-minute races to look forward to, as well as a 25-minute feature race. Qualifying coming up shortly is also 15 minutes in length. That'll be starting in just a few minutes' time. We have 3 categories to look out for, as we mentioned with the championship standings. There's the Pro category drivers, the Pro-Am category drivers, and the Am category drivers. And you can tell which is which via the standings tower, which is going to be on the left of your screen for much of the night. You can find the drivers whose numbers have a black coloured background to be the Pro category drivers. Pro-Am drivers have an orange background, and Am category drivers have a blue background. Plenty to look forward to tonight, as well as the reverse grids to make the racing all the more exciting. It is a top 12 reverse, not top 15 reverse for race 2, to form the grid for race 2, and a full reverse grid to form the grid for race 3, based on the results of race 2. So plenty of exciting action, and this is the choice track for it. So as we ascend into qualifying, there's a lot of drivers in this server, 35 drivers, which I think is the most of the season. Is going to be action packed tonight on such a small circuit as well, isn't it right, Paul?
Oh, indeed, and that, of course, does present a challenge for itself, and we'll see that straight away in qualifying, with drivers needing to find space out on the circuit to set the qualifying laps. But of course, there is that gamble. Do you try and tuck in behind another driver and gain the toe? And there are some sizable straights here as well, particularly the back straight, which runs all the way down to what is turn at number 12, and then you've got the final stretch from turn 12 up to the chicane at turns 13, as qualifying is about to get underway, and it'll be interesting to see how our drivers all condense together. Alternatively, who goes to the space out on the circuit as they all start to leave the pit lane.
And first out of the blocks, it seems to be John Higgins, new driver tonight. Quite a few new faces in the series as of today, so we'll do our best to keep an eye on them, see how they go on tonight. But as you mentioned with this circuit, yeah, there's quite a few sizable straights here. And actually in the Formula 1, you know, I keep referring back to it, the Formula 1, this is considered a very small track. But actually in these cars, the MX-5s, they're considerably slower than the Formula 1 cars, of course, and they take the corners a lot slower. But the lap here in the MX-5s here, we're seeing laps of 1 minute 57. It's quite a sizable lap for these cars.
It is indeed, but I think where the small nature even comes in the MX-5s is a lot of the time on this circuit is spent in major acceleration zones, as we see Higgins making his way down to what is the third in a sequence of chicanes. And because you've got those long straights, it really feels as though the corners suddenly come at you at the end of a long road. So you're almost caught napping in a way. You've got plenty of time to rest in preparation for the next corner. As we can see the mad lollygaggle, if you will, at Lee Holmes and company, they're all making their way down to what is the third chicane now. But I think even in the drivers' minds here in these slower cars, these corners are going to come up very fast in, and it's always heavy on the brakes. So you can imagine these MX-5s, they'll be getting up towards top gear each and every time. They've got to slam hard down on the brakes, and we're not dealing with carbon ceramic brakes, so we're dealing with the old style brakes, the old metallic brakes, and as a result that means our drivers are going to be finely balanced. And in the end, whilst it is a long lap time, I get the feeling it's going to be the case that by the end of the race they'll be thinking, where on earth has that 15 or that 25 minutes gone?
Yeah, we've certainly been feeling that throughout most of the races this season. Even the longer 25-minute races just flown by due to how exciting it is. And you can see all the drivers squabbling for track position here. You can see the track map is loaded up on the right here. They're all filtering into that hairpin. They're all trying to establish a good position. They don't want to be behind a driver that is what they would consider slower than themselves, but also they want to be behind a quick driver to help them tow them along and get the best slipstream down these straights. You can see all the NXTGEN racing drivers keeping themselves close together. That's Jamie Dory, Lee Horn and Paul Scott, but all of them closely knit together. And actually we are going to do a lap of this circuit, and I think we're going to pick out second in the Pro Category Championship. We'll go, in fact we'll do it on the next lap, Paul. We'll do a proper lap. We were a little bit distracted by the amount of cars filtering into those corners then. But yeah, and a couple of drivers actually getting times on the board. There's when the drivers come out of the pits, they cross over the timing beam. So there's a lot of times actually going up on the board right now. This certainly is going to get much quicker than that, though, rest assured, ladies and gentlemen. Lee Holmes top of the standings, though it's not retrospective of what's actually going to happen. Although Lee Holmes second in the championship, we might fancy his chances for a couple of race wins tonight and a big advantage in the championship, as Mikey Doble is not racing tonight.
Oh, indeed, and with the absence of Doble, this is really a huge opportunity for a good number of drivers within the Pro Class to get some huge points on the board. Of course, there is that drop round to be considered, but at the same time, it's that momentum. And whilst you may not want to attend every single round, it's the case even in the most negative rounds or the rounds where you're not expecting to do well, if you do attend, you just keep your foot in it, and that's the key thing. And particularly when you come back from what is a multi-week break, we have the Christmas break. I think today is going to be just about as much about who can get themselves back up to speed as quick as possible and feel comfortable behind the wheel, as it is about being the fastest guy out on circuit run. I think, given how tight this circuit is, we are going to see a number of drivers having brushes with the wall when they're not quite finely tuned in terms of being on point and going through these corners.
And of course, there is the Wall of Champions on the exit of the final corner, which could claim a few races tonight. We'll just wait and see. And I'm definitely expecting a few cautions tonight, but throw caution to the wind. Here we go for a lap on board with Lee Holmes, taken through by Paul Walsh. Take it away.
So as Lee Holmes makes his way across the timeline very shortly to go onto another flying lap here, building up through the gearbox and heading through the right-hand drift towards turn number 1. Braking hard here, down through the gearbox, into the left-to-right combination here, into Raj Centre, coming into turn 2, the heavy braking zone to turn 2, even heavier than turn 1, coming all the way down the gearbox to second gear and now accelerating through, making his way up towards the first of the chicanes here, coming into turn number 3 very shortly, getting ready to go on the brakes there, using the 50-metre board and essentially throwing the car in to turn 3 before rising over turn 4 and getting on the throttle as early as possible. Now making his way through the kink of 5 and getting ready to go into the second chicane. Turn 6 is on away. A slightly faster chicane here, albeit wouldn't look it on paper, and he's having to use as much apex to turn 6 there to get the car rotated on that front left wheel before now accelerating out of 7. Now it's the long charge all the way down towards the turn 8 and 9 chicane once again here, and as he makes his way charge on down Lee Holmes right now, you can see he's got the slipstream of the driver in front, the car God's machine ahead of him as he comes into the braking zone here for what is effectively 9 and 10, making his way on through, this being the sliced of the 3 chicanes, but rising over those curves and now accelerating through the long run up towards what is the hairpin. But it looks like Lee Holmes in fact having to back off a little bit there, perhaps for a cut, and as he makes his way down he's going to be coming in very softly into the hairpin, the turn 12 hairpin, and as he makes his way up through the corner here, I think he's going to set himself up for another lap as he was lifting off briefly in the run down towards 12. But as he accelerates out now, it's the case, it's the long straight leading up to the final chicane, chicane number 4, and as he makes his way all the way down, accelerating through the gearbox all the way up to top gear, building up as much speed as humanly possible and getting it ready to sight his braking point. I think Lee Holmes at this point will be knowing, okay, this is a practice run, but he's got to get this right because he'll need to make his way with much momentum onto the next lap. He goes on in, turning in and goes a bit deep there, in fact missing the initial apex, and he goes over the race sausage to complete the lap. He's got to be so careful if he does hit the sausage of turn 14, because get that wrong, it can launch the car into the World Champions, and we've seen that in multiple live and simulated series where drivers just hit that curb way too high and it sends the car into the wall.
It's a very, well, 2 very steep curbs coming through the final chicane there, and they're the ones that spit you out into the wall. Either that or it spins the car around, and it's really what we got to keep an eye on tonight, and the drivers are going to be wary of that chicane. It can be the making of a great lap, but it also can be the losing of a great race. That's something we've really got to keep an eye on tonight. But back to the qualifying action. We are more than a third of the way through, approaching the halfway point in qualifying. Adam Delmont leads the way at the moment with a 155.233, quite a sizable gap ahead of Deegan Fairclough, but Pete Newman, welcome back to the Series 2, Pete. He missed a few races, but he's back today. The Pure Sims driver who works with Ashley Sutton in the BTCC. He's topped the standings there. Pete Newman, remember him well from the BSR days. Very quick in these cars indeed, but a 155, almost dead, and quite an exceptional lap as there's a car off in the background there. That was one of the 88 Tech cars as Pete Newman heads through the midpoint of the circuit to try another lap here. It might have been compromised by the few cars going off back there. Let's see what else is going on. Deegan Fairclough was on for a good lap, and he seems to have pulled out of it, trying to get himself a good position on track. Make sure he's getting out of the way of the drivers, and quite a smart livery on that car, designed by Mark Sykes, of course. And he takes a deep exit from the hairpin to try and tuck in behind Ollie Peters, it seems, to get himself a good slipstream up the straight here. Let's see who else is out there on track. There's a couple of new drivers kicking about today. Peter Dempsey, some sort of relation to Keith Dempsey. Welcome to the Series 2, Peter. Both of Turn 3 Motorsport. We've got the returning Adam Morgan of the British Touring Car Championship and Sicily Motorsport driver. Welcome back to him. We also have John Higgins, new to the series today. Welcome to him. We have got Rob McGregor, new to the series as well in the 117 machine, real life Mazda MX-5 driver, I've been made aware, so huge welcome to him. Welcome along, hopefully a good night for these new drivers, including David Maguire of Tuning Factory, the number 36 car there. We've also got a return of Dan Rowbottom, who made an appearance at Knock Hill some weeks ago. Welcome to him. And also new driver in the form of James Warrior of Hills Motorsports. And I think we've also got Senan Fielding in the server as well. We remember him quite well from the Legends Cup we had a few seasons ago. So a welcome to Mr. Fielding. Quite a lot of drivers in the server. I believe we have now kicked it up to 36 drivers, which is just a huge amount. Isn't that right, Paul?
Oh, it is indeed. I mean, this series, of course, started off by popular demand, and that demand is continuing to increase, and it's absolutely fantastic to see so many people on board. And we also do have a guest driver, I believe, taking part today in the form of Matt Emmons, currently P23. And, well, Matt Emmons, for those who are uninitiated, he is the organiser of the Next Gen Racing GT3 Championship on the iRacing Sim platform, and he's taking part tonight representing Luxim 24 with M&V Esports. He makes his way around in the Red Bull liveried MX-5, and it's good to see, of course, Emmons taking taking part. We do have the option for guest drivers to arrive. Of course, they don't factor into the main championship, but it's always nice to see all different names, all from different walks of life. Of course, a number of these drivers, as you're mentioning there, Alex, also real-world drivers, and others are just being pure sim racing drivers, and it's great to have that flow and mixture of talent, and indeed it will only make things even more intense as we see Alex Denning chasing after the rather colourful livery, the duck liveried machine of what is David Whitehouse as they make their way into the second of the chicanes.
Still my favourite livery, but Alex Denning of the Pro-Am category has put himself into provisional pole positioning category, but not only that, front row of the actual grid, second place outright at the moment. He's really in the field of a lot of notoriously quick drivers, so a good lap indeed from Alex Denning, but still 2/10 down from Pete Newman, who really has this in hand with less than 5 minutes to go. So realistically, drivers are only going to get 2 to 3 laps more to get their times in, to improve their positions. So a lot at stake. So let's have a look at the Pro-Am category. We take a closer look to it. We had said it was Alex Denning at the top spot, but it is Craig Cockrell who is the category leader. He's not actually in the server, unless I'm mistaken. But
it's not on my screen either.
There we go then. So yeah, big opportunity for Lee Horn, although he's in 29th place at the moment, 10th in category, so some work to do for Horn. There's also in category fighting with Lee Horn for second and first place respectively, Aaron Thompson. No time set from Aaron Thompson just yet, so we'll see what he can accomplish with the final few moments here in qualifying. But still a fair few drivers yet to set times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers yet to set a time in this session, so it could still all be mixed up in these final few moments, Paul.
Indeed, I think one of the big challenges here is qualifying is so important at Gilles Villeneuve because of how tight this circuit is, even in the MX-5s. I think some drivers as well, who may be just a little bit sensitive about their championships at the moment, may not be too worried if they qualify towards the back of the field, for the simple reason they may be relying there's going to be an incident on the opening race in particular, which could really shake the field up, and they don't want to be right in the middle of the field when that incident occurs. And we have seen that time and time again, particularly the run through turns 1 and 2, where the field concertinas twice under brake. That can lead to potential incidents, and also the run up towards the turn 3 chicane, that can be a major zone of contention where drivers end up being caught up. And again, that's all about our drivers pushing hard at the start, because overtaking comes at a premium here, and you really do need to have an overspeed. But I think right now, with only just less than 3 minutes of qualifying to go, it will be all hands on deck from a number of individuals. And we have seen, I think it was Delmont only moments ago, put in a considerable improvement, but Newman still with a time which is yet to be beaten. He's put that bar very high, and I do wonder if we're going to be seeing a 54 at any point, or where a 55.0, pretty much dead on the dot, is the highest we can possibly see.
I'm sure there's a little part of Pete Newman who's a little bit gutted he didn't get a 54, but he won't care that much as he's still top of the standings at the moment. I did see Alex Denning improved his time a little bit. He got closer by about 0.6 of a second, but it's still not enough for pole position, but it still solidifies his second place on the grid, which is brilliant for him as it gets him quite some distance ahead of the fellow Pro-Am category drivers. What it doesn't do is fight his case for staying in the Pro-Am category, so if he keeps up performances like this, he might well be putting himself into Pro category sometime soon. But I'm not the host of this series, I don't decide that. I'm just speculating. But here we go. Let's see if Alex Denning is on a good lap here. We'll cross the line and we'll see what will happen here. He's not on an out lap, so he must be on a flying lap. Comes across the circuit and he'll get one more chance. You'll see the checkered flag on the next lap, but there seems to be no improvement for Alex Denning. Stays second place at the moment. Let's keep an eye on Pete Newman. He's got a lot of traffic ahead of him. That's pulling him along on this long straight here on the Notre Dame Island in Montreal. Drives ahead of him, pulling him along, and through the chicane he'll go for what will be his penultimate lap of the qualifying session. Let's see if this traffic does bunch him up a little bit. He's got Dan Robot on the head of him, and I think that might I can't quite work out who was ahead of him, but he did hold him up a little bit coming out of the chicane. Let's see how Pete Newman gets on this lap. Stays on. Oh no, he doesn't go quicker. 54.8, a fantastic time for Pete Newman. He's now he's over a quarter of a second clear of second place.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic for Newman. You could see that. I think that lap could have even been faster if he was allowed to straight line to the finish line. But to be fair there, when there's traffic in the way, he respected it and he moved out the way in order to carry the speed. And, well, Newman absolutely flying in this qualifying session. As you say, Alex, with regards to our class, of course, our Pro-Am drivers in particular really embedding themselves within the pros, within that top 20. You can see it's the case that every couple of pros, you've got a Pro-Am who's sandwiched right in there. And, well, I think it is really going to be the case that our pros today have got a lot to contend with the Pro-Ams, trying to squeeze the way on in as qualifying is coming to its close right now. And for those ladies and gentlemen thinking, well, what happens to the newcomers tonight in terms of they've been assigned classes? Are those final? No, those will be reviewed after tonight and subsequent rounds to make sure that the newcomers are in the right classes. Deegan Fairclough comes out of nowhere with a 54.7.
Wow, what timing for that time at the end there for Deegan Fairclough. He's been so quick this season. I remember Knock Hill, he was phenomenal, but it seems he's thrown down the gauntlet again tonight at the dying moments of qualifying now. I'm not sure if he crossed the line in time to do another lap here, but he snatches away pole position from Pete Newman, who's in the pits. So that means Pete Newman will not get another chance. Deegan Fairclough at the moment is fairly safe and secure unless anyone else can deny him. The only person I think could deny him, although anyone could come out of the blocks and deny him here, but it's Adam Delmont. Hasn't got a slipstream ahead of him. He hit the wall of champions. Oh, and another one into the wall. Another Excite driver. Can't quite work out who that is, but it did not end well for the Excite iRacing drivers there. Other drivers who might well be on their way to the end of the lap. Peter Dempsey, newcomer tonight, 7th on the grid at the moment, pulls over, as does David Maguire. He's actually on a lap. Let's see what he can do. Dan Rowbottom puts himself into 8th position. The Halfords Racing with Cataclean BTCC driver puts himself 8th on the grid, 5th in the pro category. Let's see what's going on elsewhere. Other BTCC drivers. Adam Morgan, let's see if he can improve himself. 14th at the moment. He's got a little bit of a tow from the car ahead, which I think is Deegan Fairclough, so that's quite a decent car to be chasing. Let's see how Adam gets on this lap here. They've both got Sicily Motorsport on their cars. Deegan Fairclough with some association with the racing team, and towing along an associate, it seems. Let's see if Adam Morgan, there we go, big pull over there from Deegan Fairclough to help Adam Morgan along. Skips across the curbs, didn't hit the second curb so well, hits the wall, just scrapes the wall just a little bit there, and that will definitely be an aborted lap there for Adam Morgan. Blinks in a little bit in and out there, internet connection issues there, but stays 14th at the moment, does Adam Morgan, and I think that's most drivers through qualifying. And here's this man showing off a little bit at the end of his session here. Deegan Fairclough swipes away pole position in the dying moments there.
Oh, indeed, a fantastic lap from Deegan Fairclough. I think a phenomenal lap to take that pole position. And right now, I think he must be grinning from ear to ear with regards to he managed to get the jump on Pete Newman right at the end. And it does mean we'll have 2 pros on the front row going into race number 1. And then it will be a Pro-Am on the second row.
A good effort from the Pro-Am drivers. As you mentioned, there are 4 in the top 10 in this humongous grid. And in total, there are 15 drivers in the Pro-Am category. Championship leader Craig Cockrell did make it into the server in time. Late, granted, and he'll start 36th on the grid because he didn't set a time. But he is going to be involved in the racing tonight nonetheless. But big competition for the Pro category drivers here. But remember, they all score for their own category. Their overall position is irrelevant to their points. They're just getting their elbows out for the sake of it, it seems, in this series. But we're going to see a little bit of a ding-dong battle between most of these drivers in this first race. But therefore, we'll go through the grid for this first race of the night here at Montreal. It is Deegan Fairclough on the pole position. Ahead or alongside, should we say, Pete Newman in 2nd place, Alex Denning in 3rd place, first of the Pro-Am category drivers, with Adam Delmont in 4th, Niall Murray in 5th position, followed by Ben Williams. Peter Dempsey on his debut is 7th, with Daniel Rowbottom alongside him in 8th. David Maguire on his debut is 9th, with Keith Dempsey in 10th. Lee Holmes in 11th, he's 2nd in the Pro category championship, with Wayne Douglas alongside him in the Pro-Am category 12th. John Higgins on his debut is 13th, with Adam Morgan in 14th position. Ollie Peters 15th, with Lee Horn alongside in 16th. Jamie Dory 17th, with Ben Bennyworth in 18th. Nigel Stock 19th, with James Warrior in 20th. Sam Smith 21st, with David Whitehouse, the quickest of the YAM category drivers, in 22nd, followed closely by Tom Delaney in 23rd. John Burnham in 24th, followed by Rob McGregor in 25th on his debut. Lewis Kent 26th, with Matt Emmons, the guest driver, in 27th. Mark Arrowsmith 28th, followed by Mark Oliver. Glenn Humberston in 30th with Aaron Thompson 31st, Paul Scott 32nd, excuse me, Steve Thompson 33rd, Nick Clibbins 34th, 35th to Liam Silkstone, Senan Fielding in 36th, and Craig Cockrell rounds off at the back in 37th position. Huge grid for this race today, and we're about to get underway for round 4 of the championship here at Montreal. A restart to the year, a restart to the series, and we're very much looking forward to it. On the front row here, Deegan Fairclough with Pete Newman alongside. Look at all those MX-5s line up underneath the Napa bridge there, who have just announced a team in the British Touring Car Championship. Very exciting indeed, with a tremendous driver lineup, it's got to be said. But that's BTCC. This is the NXTGEN MX-5s. That is what we're all talking about tonight. Let's see how we'll get on tonight. They're gridded up and the lights are about to show. We're about to get underway for this first race of the night. 37 drivers line up. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And away we go. And it's a good start, it seems, for Deegan Fairclough. He comes straight across to defend his position from Pete Newman. Towards turn 1 we go. And we've got to keep an eye on quite a lot here. Loads of drivers filtering into turn 1. And here we go through the Virage Senna we go. A lot of drivers filtering through, and it seems fairly clean so far. All drivers make it through at the moment, and into turn 3 we go. Fairclough leads, and there's a swap positions already, and there's an incident already. Yes, there is. It's Alex Denning into the wall, drops positions, and he resets to the pits already. A bad start to his race. Dan Robottom spun as well, and it's another spin at the back. It's one of the Thompson cars. All cars trying to filter through. It's so difficult to find your way through traffic here on this circuit, particularly when there's an incident. And it's a yellow flag. A caution period has been thrown as the track was blocked, and it's the safest way to keep the drivers in the race. So, we'll go back and look at the incident to see exactly what happened. But it did involve Alex Denning. Adam Morgan was involved as well. We did see Dan Robottom was involved as well. So let's see if we can get a replay of what happened.
Well, it looked as though everybody made it through turns 1 and 2, but I think after turn 3, the elbows started to come out. We'll have to wait and see with regards to the specific incidents, but it looked as though everyone was quite peaceful into the first couple of corners, I must say. And well, I do want to cut over yourself, Alex, because it was a very frantic start. We did have one car that seemed to stall on the grid. I think Craig Cockrell had some issues getting off the line because I didn't see him move out of his grid box. And just here on the replays, this is Deegan Fairclough coming through the signal scores, and then further back, we can see it's Alex Denning in contact with, I think it was one of the green machines.
Can't quite work out who I think it was David Dempsey, actually. We'll just check one more time. Yeah, a bit of an outbreak, and it was a little nudge from behind, it seems. And that didn't actually cause the next incident. We'll see what else happened further ahead. We need to look to Adam Morgan. Adam Morgan seems relatively clean at the moment. Oh, is it? No, he doesn't. He might have got damage. He just understeers into the wall by there.
Front left axle of the suspension's collapsed. You can see the way the car just veered straight into the wall.
Okay, let's see what else happens. Niall Murray was involved in some way, so let's keep an eye on him as well coming through. He was the one who actually nudged. Oh no, he was the one who got nudged. Do excuse me. So Niall Murray's the one that went into Denning, but Murray was pushed himself by someone else. Rejoins the track here. Oh, just about keeps it going. He's alongside Ollie Peters there. Now, Niall Murray is still going. He's in 11th place. Let's see if anyone else was involved. I'm trying to see who got over the most places dropped, and it seems it's just Alex Denning for now. Let's see if we can take a look to, I think it was Dan Robottom. Let's see where he is in the field. Where is he? Help me out here, Paul. Where's Dan? There he is, Dan Robottom.
Dan Robottom's dropping down in P34, it looks like.
There we go. So let's take another look. See what happened to Dan Robottom there. Oh, he just skipped sideways. Yeah, he just got loose coming out of the corner there, and that's what causes the big concertina of cars going through turns 5 and 6 here. It does seem as though a lot of cars actually made it through, which is a good thing. That's got to be said. I believe there's 34 cars still in the running. Dan Robottom is in the pits repairing his car, getting new tyres as well. That's unfortunate, but he still will be able to continue the race. But quite the start, it's got to be said. We did say we expected cautions, Paul, but yeah, it's certainly a showcase for what Montreal can deliver, as well as great racing. It can be extremely difficult for yourself when you're in the mid-pack. and you're sort of getting collected by other people's incidents.
Oh, indeed. I think it's one of those ones as well. I don't think anybody meant any malice with the instance that occurred, but I think for a lot of drivers, it will just be a subtle warning in terms of, okay, you know what, it's the case that it's the opening lap, it gets very tight in the run through turns 3 through to 6, just keep it calm. I think some drivers were looking to gain some places. Also, there were a good number of situations where we saw 3 wide coming out of turn 2 out of Raj Senna. Particularly, I saw David Whitehouse and 2 other drivers all emerging from the corner and all giving one another space, but of course, the road tapers at the point into turn 3, where it really goes from being, you can squeeze 3 wide or perhaps 2 wide, it comes down to 1, and I don't think perhaps everybody wanted to settle into that natural order of one person ahead of the other, or if they did, they all wanted to be the lead driver, but still, that's what it means to be a racing driver. You want to be the guy who's always leading. But I think now, for a number of drivers who are still out there on circuit, who are still racing, of course, whether they've got slight damage to the car or no damage at all, they'll be thinking to themselves, okay, it's been a bit of a dangerous one. A caution's been initially called. We've already lost 5 minutes of race time. We can't afford to lose too much more. Let's just try and keep it a little bit more civil now. Or will we see some drivers bring out the fangs and try to dig a bit deeper into this race? That'll be the big question as we see Pete Dempsey right now making his way around and out the pits.
This is strange from Pete Dempsey. He chose to pit, and it seems he took on a little bit of fuel. I don't know if he actually lost many positions there, to be honest, so it might have been a good tactic. If he was panicking about fuel, it might have been a good tactic to nip in at that moment there. We did also see Dave Whitehouse in the pits there. He's only lost to 28th position, so the perfect time to do it. Didn't take on tyres or anything like that. So drivers concerned about fuel, they can't. It's a perfect opportunity to save fuel in this period, it's got to be said, but they have no engine maps or anything like that. Usually what series like Le Mans prototypes and IndyCar, them sort of series, don't have them sort of luxuries. But yeah, interesting so far, and they didn't lose many positions, which we'll certainly be grateful for. But let's take a look at the field, who's gained the most out of that rather short opening period of the race there. 4 places gained for Wayne Douglas, moves up to 8th place there. We've also got 5 places gained for Sam Smith, up to 16th at the moment. But there's not really been much time for drivers to move up positions. 25th place, Liam Silkstone has moved up 10 positions through all that drama, so a good start to the race for him. But I think we are going to go racing very, very shortly here. Oh, and I'm seeing incidents popping up on my screen here, but nothing's quite happening there. Do excuse me.
I think that's because they're all braking so heavily into the hairpin, they're going below that speed, which triggers our instant sensor, because they have to go so slowly through turn 12 on that deep line.
Yeah, it's coming up as crashed when we can certainly see they're not. But yeah, you can tell they're backing up the field already, letting the pace car go ahead. The more the pace car is ahead, the more Deegan Fairclough can floor it effectively for the start of this race. He wants to get a good run through that chicane. But is his tactic to bunch up the field here through the chicane, or is he going to floor it fairly early on? We'll see very soon, I'm sure. He leads the field towards the chicane. Under the Dodge Bridge we go. Pace car is moving into the pit lane now. And Pete Newman sticking very close to Deegan Fairclough, stomping on the brakes to try and stay as close as he can. And away goes Deegan right into the chicane there. Good start for him and Pete Newman as we restart this race here at Montreal. Nearly half the race expired already through that safety car period, so not much time for these drivers to get up the grid in these final laps of the race. But
a very good start from Fairclough, and the way he triggered that start. Newman was wise. You can see Delmont in particular has fallen back, and really the top 2 have made a small break away. They'll close up once they start to make their way around the circuit, as we've got 3 wide going down into turn 1, and then Paul Scott as well trying to get into a 2 wide situation as Clibbins goes round the outside of 2 drivers there into turn 1. Very brave stuff of the Simtech Racing Gold driver as they all come charging on through. And meanwhile, Fairclough leading at this race with a small margin of 7/10 of a second. As you can see, the pursuing pack behind, Delmont leading that pack and David Maguire right in the midst of it. And really right now we've got a top 7 that's broken away with Wayne Douglas in P8 a bit further back, and as they all come charging through and down towards the hairpin for what is the first time of asking on this the restarted race, it is the case that right now a bit further back in that midfield, well, look at the train of Mazdas as they all come charging down towards the what is not even the chicane, not even the hairpin, the 3rd chicane, as Lee Horn is trying to hold off what is behind him there, Ollie Peters. In fact, my apologies, as they make their way on through. That's not Ollie Peters, that looks to be a different driver entirely. That looks to be Denny behind. I think I've got a slight glitch on my screen, but as they make their way through, we can see that Lee Horn trying to just push on and go chasing after that top 10.
I think it was Alex Denny, but laps down, I do believe. As we go through the hairpin here, this is Niall Murray in the 155 car facing off against Lee Holmes here. Lee Holmes is second in the Pro Category Championship. He's got an opportunity tonight to take the lead in the Pro Category Championship, provided he gets good results on his rivals. As he hits the wall a little bit there, and the two net go together, but they're able to keep it going. There might be a little bit of damage on their cars there, but they still just about keep it going, not giving each other any room. And Lee Holmes sticking to his gun, sticking to the inside. He backs out for the chicane, wants to go through their single file to prevent risk of going into the wall or making contact with the other car. Away we go, and there's a couple of slowdowns here. I think that is Douglas, it's Peter Dempsey running slow to the side here, and look at this, they all swerve around him. The 7-Up car is holding up things here, and through goes Lee Holmes, through goes many other cars, including Ben Williams and Niall Murray. They bunch up here in the Ferrari Senna, and this is important because 12th place held by Lee Horn there. He is holding reverse grid pole at the moment by finishing 12th as it stands, so quite an important position for him to hold. Oh, and there's a little bit of contact up ahead as wide there goes Niall Murray, and through goes Lee Holmes. I think it was actually Ben Williams who dropped off a little bit there, and they all filtering around each other. When one makes a mistake, they all pounce, and contact there from Peter Dempsey, and he backs off. Ben Williams does make it through, but he's running very wide on a lot of these corners, and that's what's causing these cars to go everywhere around him. 3 wide coming out of the chicane here, Paul.
Oh, indeed, and as they all now make their way down to the further chicanes, you can see already how effectively Lee Horn, he's trying to place himself on the inside for the braking mode here. He doesn't want to get involved in contact. He's going to go for the move on the inside. He's going to get it done here versus Ben Williams, and the iRacing driver very wise to back out of trying to defend that, because he knows at the end of the day Lee Horn can try and pull him past where Dempsey just up the road, and that is the major challenge around here because of the fact that with our drivers feeling so confident to run side by side, as you can see here, John Higgins making his way past there making his way past Lee Holmes for the time being, and as they come charging now down to that final straight in the run up towards the chicane, now it's all about forming into a line here and building up that speed, slipstreaming off the guy in front. But really, they're encouraged to go too wide through so many parts of this circuit, but I think there's certain points where they realise that they just can't quite do it. As we see just ahead right now, Murray and Douglas coming together. Douglas going defensive here versus Murray, as Murray's going to try and go all the way around the outside to inside, under braking, but he's got a little bit deep. He slid on the brakes, and you can see now behind how that's given an opportunity to Higgins and Holmes to close up. As also behind is Dempsey here, with Dempsey coming through with a huge amount. Oh, goodness me! And that's a major incident of the World Champions with Sam Smith, and also Mike. Is that Aerosmith there involved in that? I'm not 100% sure. It
was between Ben Bennyworth and Ollie Peters here. Peters has to back off in the chicane. He went a little bit wide, and Bennyworth gave him the nudge. But there's something else did also happen up ahead of this clash here. Trying to look for Ben Williams has had an incident in the Wall of Champions there. He's the one here alongside, I think that's Lee Horn. Into the chicane they go. Lee Horn lets him go, and he just understeers into the curb and spins it into Alex Denning and into the wall. And it does also collect one of the Simtech cars, which I think was in fact Sam Smith, I believe. Yes, it was Sam Smith. But drivers get away with that. Some drivers didn't. It really shakes things up here. Oh, as Sam Smith is running very slow there with the damage he collected from that. And I think there's also other cars who are really struggling at this bottom end of the field right now, trying to limp their way back to the pits, because we are very near the end of the race, and we've got a battle raging on between Fairclough and Newman finally.
Well, as they make their way through the hairpin here now, Fairclough, he's had it quite peaceful for the majority of this race, and he nailed that restart, of course. But now, here's the problem for Fairclough. Does he battle Newman and bring Delmont into this battle? With effect, he wanted one more lap to go by the time they cross the start-finish line here at the end of this lap. Or does he now try to make it a freeway battle and bring Delmont in to try and get Newman off him? Well, Newman's got a lot of momentum here in the run-up towards the chicane. He's going to try and go around outside to inside here and try to essentially force Fairclough to go deep on the brakes. But Fairclough plays it smart. He backs off completely here. So is it the case that Fairclough's going to try and get the return on the final lap? I'd say so, for the simple reason he didn't really fight that. He's trying to play us tactically, but even then, if he comes home second today, he'll be happy with that, and that'll be a huge amount of points on the board. And Delmont's just watching, and behind them, Will Maguire, our Pro-Am driver, I think will be smiling right now, because he's pretty much got P4 all to himself, and he just needs to follow the leaders to the end as they come from to this final lap.
Pretty much. I didn't see the white flag wave, so this might not be the final lap. I might be mistaken, but we'll come back to this very shortly. We did have an incident further back in the field. It was Senan fielding. I'm not sure what we're actually looking at here. We'll see. We've got Glenn Humberson here as well, involved with John Burnham. And this is coming into the hairpin, under braking here. Oh, and a car goes straight into the back of both of them. I'm not quite sure who that is. Oh, and it just causes all manner of mess in the hairpin there. But they all get away with it somewhat. A couple of positions dropped for some of them, but it's not game over for all of them. But we return to the front pack. Wayne Douglas has been involved in an incident. We'll come back to this very shortly. He was towards the front of the field. He's battling there with, I think, that's Niall Murray. Oh, and it's huge net code involved there. And that just sends, Piratella's Wayne Douglas into the wall there. Very strange incident indeed. But he keeps it going. A little bit of damage probably on that car, granted. But he keeps it going. Meanwhile, towards the front, we've got the top three here. Battling it out. Newman versus Fairclough versus Delmont. They're on their own here. Maguire has dropped off from them. You can see him back here. He's holding off Keith Dempsey. Oh, we've also got another incident further down the field. Lee Horn and Alex Denning have had an incident. Lee Horn stayed in 10th at the moment, but here we go between Fairclough and Newman. Newman has the inside, but Fairclough is quicker on the outside. Latest of the late breakers. They're side by side going through the chicane, and there's a little bit of contact, but Fairclough makes it through, and Delmont gets a brilliant run coming out of turn 3. Checkered flag is waving. Fairclough would have has got it here on the final corner. Across the line he goes. Fantastic final attempt from Fairclough there. Newman fought valiantly, but he had to relinquish the position as well to Delmont through a bad run through the chicane. Delmont easy picking to him on that final corner to swipe away second. Brilliant battling for the top three there in the final few corners. David Maguire, provisionally in the Pro-Am category, he gets top honours in the category at the moment. And it is Tom Delaney who comes through just ahead of Mark Arrowsmith, second in his third iRacing League race, I believe. But Tom Delaney takes the AM category win. 13th, so he doesn't get reverse grid pole. It goes to Rob McGregor on his debut tonight, so big congratulations to him. He'll start pole position for this next race, pending any penalties that we've not heard of. But the race goes to Deegan Fairclough. What a final corner battle that was, Paul.
Oh, indeed, and Fairclough played it smart. He saw in the previous lap, on the penultimate lap, just how strong the slipstream run was from turn 12 up towards the final pair of corners, and so he decided to play it back. But to be fair to Newman, he tried his best to essentially make Fairclough go overly deep, but you could see in the end Newman was having to balance the car between trying to brake as deep as possible, but also give Fairclough the space as not to incur the wrath of our stewards. But in the end, I think the two of them managed it well to go side by side through the chicane. There was the contact, and it subsequently cost Newman that P2. But I don't think he'll be kicking himself too bad, given the fact that he's in very good company and he really is racing with the fastest guys, it seems, in the pro class, at least after the first race tonight, and it's still solid points on the board for a good P3.
Let's see if we can get a quick replay of that overtake from Fairclough. So he moves over out the slipstream to the outside. Good run down the left-hand side there. So it was advantage Deegan going into the corner. Newman hangs on to the inside, and Deegan, to be fair, gives him room, and Newman understeered by hitting the curb. Just about didn't hit Fairclough, and fair play to Newman. He did very well to avoid Fairclough, but that compromised his exit and allowed Delmont through. So very well done for Fairclough there. He timed it to perfection, and you alluded to it at the beginning of the lap where he sort of didn't battle too hard with Newman when Newman originally took first position on the previous lap, and it was all to line up that move at the end there. Very, very cleverly done from Fairclough, it's got to be said.
Oh, indeed. I think now looking at it, it'll be interesting to see whether that same logic is then reversed in the future races, whether Newman will recognise, you know what, actually, it's not worth overtaking until the very final lap if you are in that lead battle. But also, another perhaps unsung hero really of this opening race, Tom Delaney, who started second in the AM class and has taken the AM win in race number 1, and Arrowsmith as well really came up through the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Arrowsmith, one of the biggest movers, 14 places gained. The biggest mover was, in fact, Nick Clibbens. 16th he finished, but he gained 18 places to get there. So a lot of big movers in this field, and a lot of them finished near 12th, which is quite extraordinary indeed from such a tricky track to overtake on, and a track that is almost notorious for incidents on iRacing, but a great track nonetheless. But here are the results of the race that has just happened. It is Deegan Fairclough who takes the win from Adam Delmont, swiping it away from Pete Newman on the final corner there, who takes third position. Final honours on the podium. Keith Dempsey takes fourth place in the Pro category and overall. But first in the Pro-Am category is David Maguire, fifth place overall. Lee Holmes takes sixth position. Niall Murray in seventh, but second in category. Third in category, but eighth overall is Wayne Douglas, Lee Horn in 9th position, followed by his teammate Jamie Dory rounding off the top 10. 11th place to James Warrior, who will line up on the front row of the grid in the next race alongside fellow newcomer Rob McGregor. 12th place for him. Tom Delaney, first of the AM category drivers, just ahead of Mark Arrowsmith. A good night it seems for him so far. John Higgins in 15th place did have an incident earlier on in the race that we saw. He finished 15th in the end, but Nick Clibbins, the biggest gainer of the field, in 16th with 18 places gained. Liam Silkstone, also a big mover. He got 18 places gained, looking at the timing screen. Brilliant from him as well for the Syntec Racing Gold Machine. 17th to Liam Silkstone with Nigel Stock in 18th position. David Whitehouse, 3rd in category, but 19th overall. Senan Fielding started from the back. He makes his way through into 20th place, 16 places gained. John Burnham in 21st with Craig Cockrell in 22nd. Lewis Kent 23rd with Glenn Humberston in 24th. Dan Rowbottom, involved in an incident on the opening lap, still finished on the lead lap in 25th, as did Ben Bennyworth, Paul Scott, Mark Oliver and Matt Emmons, as well as Steve Thompson, Aaron Thompson, Ollie Peters, Adam Morgan, and rounding off in 34th, Sam Smith with Peter Dempsey in 35th, 1 lap down. Another 1 lap down was Ben Williams and Alex Denning, who was involved in the incident at the start of the race. But your race winner was Deegan Fairclough. And what an opening race that was tonight. We have got more racing for you coming up tonight. We've got a 15-minute race coming up very shortly, and the 25-minute feature race later on in the night. Plenty more action to watch, ladies and gentlemen, here on Crest Autosport TV, on Twitch and YouTube, as well as NXTGEN Racing TV on Facebook. Don't go away. We'll be right back with race 2 of the night. Welcome back, everyone, to Canada, to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal for round 4 of the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup. Race 2 of the night is coming up very, very shortly, and in race 1, a little bit of a sit rep. Deegan Fairclough with a final lap overtake on Pete Newman to take the win in that race. Dramatic fashion indeed, and half of the race was halted by a caution as well, as we saw a few cars fall casualty at the start of the race. But the racing still nonetheless brilliant, and we're going to see a lot of drivers with a bit of a chip on their shoulder in this race because race 1 probably didn't go so well for them, trying to claw their way back through the order. But all remains to be seen. We've got a 15-minute race coming up very, very shortly in the next 2 minutes or so, and then we have got the 25-minute feature race coming up later on. So Paul, with about 50 seconds until we grid up for race 2, what are you expecting or predicting, should we say, for this next race of the night?
My prediction will be we'll be seeing a number of drivers who are involved in incidents in race 1 trying to surge their way from the back of the field or from the rear of the midfield. They'll try and come through. I think our top 12, which will be reverse grid, we're going to be seeing quite a bit of fighting, particularly from our 3 pro drivers who will be starting on what is the 5th and 6th row. So that is our race winner and our podium for the pros. But also keep an eye on David Maguire, winner in the ProAm class in race number 1. I reckon the ProAm driver is going to try and do it again and try and take the win in race number 2.
There we go. You heard it from Paul first, everyone. Let's see what happens in this next race. A couple of drivers getting warmed up, and we're about to ascend into the next race of the night. Very, very, a very quick turnaround, shall we say, from the Next Gen admins, i.e. Jamie Dory, to turn around these servers so quickly so the racing could be done as soon as possible for these drivers. No waiting around at all. But without further ado, Paul Walsh is going to talk us through the grid for this next race of the night.
So for race number 2, ladies and gentlemen, your front row consists of the ProAm combination of Rob McGregor and Liam Silkstone. On row number 2 is John Higgins and John Burnham with the pro driver alongside the ProAm. Then Adam Morgan and David Maguire on row number 3. Lewis Kent and Nick Clibbins on row 4. James Warrior and Steve Thompson on row 5. Glenn Humberstone and Keith Dempsey on row number 6. And then on row number 7, Tom Delaney and Wayne Douglas, followed by Ben Williams and Ollie Peters, Alex Denning and Lee Holmes on row number 9. And then completing your top 10 rows, and Niall Murray and Ben Bennyworth. Peter Dempsey and Pete Newman on row 11. David Whitehouse and Daniel Rowbottom on row number 12, and then looking outside of them we do have Adam Delmont and Sen MP Fielding on row number 13, Aaron Thompson and Mark Arrow-Smith on row 14, Jamie Dory and Matt Emmons on row 15, Paul Scott and Lee Horn on row number 16, Mark Oliver and Deegan Fairclough P33 and P34, Nigel Stock and Sam Smith P35 and P36, and well, that is our field completed. We have 36 drivers here for race number 2, and we are just waiting for the lights.
I think we had a little bit of an issue with the grid there, but nonetheless, we are about to get underway with the racing. It is Rob McGregor on the front row, James Warrior alongside him. Lights are red, and we are away. And a good start, it seems, for... Oh, there's an instant already at the back. Not even got to the line, and as a car spun off into the wall, it was Steve Thompson. But into turn 1 we go right away. It's Rob McGregor leading from James Warrior into turns 1 and 2 we go. Oh, and there's an instant in the mid-pack here. All the drivers bunching up here. There's a couple of drivers straggling at the back here. We're looking at Ollie Peterson. There's a couple of drivers spinning in the middle here. And there's a big pile-up coming out of turn 2 there.
Well, there's been a number of major incidents. I think it's the case where we've got John Higgins there parked into the wall. And also, I think, is that Pete Newman involved in a major incident by the looks of things?
Yes, it was,
and also Keith Dempsey. And as they all make their way on through right now, Pete Newman in the wall. This is a disaster. I'm sure a caution's going to be thrown at some point if based on race 1. We'll have to wait and see. Oh, goodness me, even more contact. That's Aaron Thompson. And, well, he's hooked with the renowned Mazda. I'm not 100% sure who that is, but they're hooked together. Sorry, that's...
Keith Dempsey, that is, in the 199 car. And this... Aaron Thompson just can't get away there. He's stuck there. And I think a caution still hasn't been thrown, so... The track has been declared clear for drivers to get through, and the racing will carry on. Quite a dramatic start to this race indeed. It was a little tricky to follow all of that. Granted, there's 36 cars on the track as we see it move from Jamie Dory to the outside of James Warrior, and we'll see if we can recap some of those incidents a little bit later on. But through the hairpin we go and up towards the final chicane on the track, and it is a 4-way battle for the top spot. It involves 2 pro category drivers, James Warrior and Jamie Dory, as well as Rob McGregor and Wayne Douglas.
Well, as they make their way all the way down now towards the final chicane, down to the wall of champions for the first time, as we've got a car there wayward across the turn 12 hairpin. That's Mark Oliver, who's decided he wants to do a repeat of the hairpin and not quite completed it as he now gets back under speed. I'm wondering if the rear end of that car's come loose. We've got a lot of wounded Mazda MX-5s around the circuit, but right now, looking back up towards the front, it is the case that McGregor right now leading by a small margin, as we are looking at Aaron Thompson in the pits, and we can also see Deegan Fairclough coming into the pits as all our drivers snake train their way along and down towards turn 1 on lap number 2. And we see Jamie Dory has found his way past McGregor, has now got Wayne Douglas trying to go round the outside here, and I think finding himself a little bit squeezed wide, as we can see their Warrior just trying to get also in on the mix as they come down towards turn number 3. Into the braking lane they go, and Douglas here, well, he'll be more focused on battling with McGregor rather than battling with the pro drivers around him. As you see there, McGregor to get it very wrong, and McGregor with a slowdown and a half as he makes his way back up to speed now, but that's going to hurt him massively as Jamie Dory's into the lead of this race, and the pro driver now trying to charge off and make this one his own with some connectivity issues as well as he goes roaring down towards the third of the chicanes in sequence. And you can see Warrior now past what is Douglas there, and Douglas doesn't have to fight these guys, and Nick Clemens and Daniel Rowbottom also trying to get up to speed here in the battle for the pro podium, but it looks though Douglas is going to have a shot here at going after Warrior. Will he be able to get on through? Well, I think if he's going to try and go around the outside to inside here, it's going to be very brave, and he backs out of it there quite sensibly as he clips the wall, and that's actually raised the tyres off the ground there on the exit of the chicane as he makes his way down towards the hairpin. Surely Douglas at this point is going to be thinking that he doesn't need to fight the guys around him. He wants to be close to them to get the slipstream down the straights, but he doesn't need to fight them unless he's just not cognizant of that. As meanwhile, a little bit further back, the nearest driver chasing after him will be Kent, who's down in P6. As Lewis Kent, who's the best part of 3 seconds away and not really closing at this point in time. Then again, the BT Motorsport driver here is quite a way away, and of course he'll be looking for that distant tow. As I'm hearing, there's been even more incidents further down the field, and in particular I think a little bit of scrap between Adam Morgan and Mark Arrowsmith down towards what was the hairpin, or it might be the case they're both just going slow on an overtake, as we see Mark Arrowsmith here, the AM driver, just charging on through, and I think it may be the case that he just literally parked it up on the hairpin when a bit deeper behind, and we've got a 2x2 formation in the battle for P18. In fact, they're going to go 4 wide down here, Alex. Would you believe it? In fact, it's 3 wide in the end because the fourth driver can't find a bit of space. How are they going to navigate the chicane? My goodness, and Denning right in the middle and going for the Moses manoeuvre, and he's got it done. As you can see, Lee Holmes manages to get through, and Delmont loses 2 places for the price of 1. And now can Nigel Stark, who was involved in that early incident at turn 2 on the opening lap, can he now get past what is Delmont in the run down towards turn 1? He's not close enough to go for it, but I think Nigel Stark would be wishing that he was involved in that major overtaking session.
We had an incident further back for Lee Horn, who finished quite well in race 1. Remember, he's going very, very slow going into the hairpin there, so there might be another incident he was involved in. And nothing actually happened there. He just went very slow through the hairpin, and that picks it up as an incident, which is very strange indeed. But he's limping back to the pits. But meanwhile, his teammate at the top here, cruising away at the top here, Jamie Dory, who started in 3rd, 2 places gained. A little bit of connectivity issues. Hopefully that doesn't hamper his race too much. Still a good battle going on between Wayne Douglas and James Warrior. Wayne Douglas leader of the Pro-Am category. But although, Paul, you mentioned that he's leading the Pro-Am category, he doesn't quite need to get involved in battling so much. These drivers probably aren't hugely aware of who's in their category and who isn't. They're probably not going to take too many chances on dedicating them or declaring themselves, should I say, the top spot in the category, because they simply don't know. They have to memorize the entry list, and the guys in category, we've got the luxury of having color codes ahead of us to help us identify who's who. But Wayne Douglas will not take any chances here. He'll try and get himself to the front as quickly as he can. Meanwhile, in the other categories, Dave Whitehouse is in 9th place at the moment and leading the AM category. Another good race for Dave Whitehouse, it seems. He's very good at getting through nice and clean, out of trouble, and just gets himself to the front in category and towards the front of the overall field, it seems. Biggest mover of the field is just behind Dave Whitehouse. It is Ben Williams, newcomer tonight, 10th place at the moment, 25 places gained, a huge amount. He had a bad start to the previous race. He got involved in an incident on lap 1 that caused the caution, but he is doing very well in this race indeed. He's got Sam Smith behind him, 22 places gained, also 19 places gained for Ollie Peters. Some big movers in this grid so far, Paul.
Oh, indeed. And I think really it's the opportunity, as you say, Alex, just keeping your head down and staying out of trouble. And that's the logic so many drivers here are applying in order to gain so many places. And as soon as one instant occurs, particularly at the start of the race when it occurs in the opening sequence of 5 corners, those instants can see so many drivers get caught up. And if you get caught up in that, you're likely to pick up damage and see yourself drop down the field. But as a result of that, our drivers who started further back, who stayed clear, were able to gain a major number of places. And it really has worked out for them. None more so than Ollie Peters, of course, and Sam Smith just ahead of him in the battle for P11 as we look at Daniel Rowbottom here. But then we look back to Ben Bennyworth, who's side by side at the moment with what is there, I believe that is Dempsey, as they make their way down into what is the further chicanes as they come on through. But you can see with Bennyworth being out of position, it's actually cost him a lot of momentum versus Higgins, who's trying to close in behind as they go rolling on down. And now instead Pete Dempsey, who's up the road, is now trying to make the move on Ollie Peters as they make their way down into the braking zone here. Here they come. He's going to go 2 in, and as a result, that was very, very brave. That is rather reminiscent of a Daniel Ricciardo style move from Formula 1, but you can see he's made it work. And that, well, I think it was the case that the 2 drivers ahead of him had to give him the space to do it. Smith and Peters had to both see him coming like a literal missile coming down the inside. But what a brave move, and I think we'll be enjoying that one for some time to come.
You could see him shaking the car to try and slow it down even more, but he made it through without any trouble. And in fact, good of Sam Smith to avoid. And there's contact between the two. Into the wall goes Smith. Back here, he went in. Go on.
I think it's the case. I think they're just a little bit of a tap, and in the end, Smith just being turned into the wall. Now, we're just taking a look back at what happened here, and as they made their way down into the braking zone, was there a case that one of them turned into the other? It does look as though Smith just simply, I think he went deep on the brakes, and then it was the case that Dempsey turned in to find a face full of Sam Smith in the way there. It didn't look as though either driver really, well, I think if Smith just got it wrong on the brakes, and then it was Dempsey who got it wrong on the turn. He didn't see the Mazda that was going all the way down the inside as rapidly as he did.
Yeah, and Sam Smith will see it as all that hard work has just been undone, as I think he has reverted to the pits. Yes, he has. He's appeared in grey on our timing screen here. So Sam Smith, all that work undone, and he'll return to the pits. Other drivers who are doing this pretty well right now, it's got to be said. Dan Rowbottom, he's got a good run on second place here. 21 places gained, could become 22 very soon as he takes to the left side of James Warrior as he head down towards the hairpin. 9 minutes expired in this race, 6 to go. Dan Rowbottom breaks into the hairpin, but very late braking from James Warrior. A nice deep undercut attempted from Dan Rowbottom, but he couldn't quite get the car in. He had to run wide, and that has allowed Wayne Douglas to get alongside and to pounce on the Halfords Racing with Category Motorsport driver, hunting down the top 2 spots here. Dan Rowbottom didn't have such good luck at Knock Hill on his opening round, but this is certainly a coming of form here. He looks to the inside. This is going to be a brave move into the chicane. He outbrakes James Warrior into the chicane. Can he keep it on the black stuff? Yes, he can. Superb overtake from Dan Rowbottom, reminiscent of a BTCC driver. That's got to be said.
Oh, indeed, what a fantastic move. And I thought for a second there he was going to have to release the brake and let the car straight line across. It looked as though it was right on the edge of cohesion, but he just got it stopped. And that is the difference between being in third and being in second, being that brave to go for it. And really, with the time remaining right now, could Rowbottom go hunt down Dory with only what is 3 laps remaining, including the lap they're on? As we can see right now, it looks as though their Warriors received a slowdown. He's just had to burn it coming out of turn 2 and into 3. And right, he's dropped all the way down. Oh, no! Goodness me, and Rowbottom into the wall!
Oh no, it's all that hard work undone. Another driver falls for it. Let's see what happened to Dan Rowbottom. He's very much on his own here. Big pull up there from Wayne Douglas. Was there contact? I think there was. There's a little bit of contact there, and that sends Dan Rowbottom round, but he might have got away with that. He might not have too much damage on the car. He might be able to keep going. Let's see how Dan Rowbottom gets on. He's in 4th here, and he's now defending from David Maguire. And a long way back from the top 3, he will go on and will try and hunt down Jamie Dory. Although they dropped a lot of time from Jamie Dory through that instant. Jamie Dory is now in the clear by 4 seconds, and that'll be a big sigh of relief in some way for Jamie Dory. But oh, such hard luck for Dan Rowbottom. He pulled off one of the greatest overtakes we've seen this season. And then just half a lap later, it's all undone as David Maguire, should I say, tries to go around the outside, and he got a little bit of a nudge from the rear of from the front of Lewis Kent there. But a good exit from the hairpin there. It's got to be said from David Maguire. He'll now challenge Dan Rowbottom as we head towards the chicane.
And as they build their momentum up towards the chicane, you can see Rowbottom defended hard, but he does have a straight line deficit. What with the damage on the car there, it's making it harder for him to punch that hole through the air. And you can see now, as it's going to be the case, that Maguire's going to try and go all the way around the outside here. But look at this, coming up on the inside. It's a repeat of the previous lap. They always go free wide, and there's contact there with Rowbottom going into contact. Maguire spins Rowbottom out there, and it is the case. Well, Rowbottom's luck's gone from good to bad to disastrous to nightmare. I don't think we can put any more adjectives on that, as it's all gone horribly wrong. And my goodness, Alex, would you expect this to happen in a million years?
I'm not too sure. I don't like to see incidents like that. I'm not going to say too much on it. I thought Dan Rowbottom did nothing wrong there personally, but I'm not a steward, I'm a commentator. Who am I to say? But Dan Rowbottom, even more positions dropped. 10th place now. He's still in a good position, has got to be said, but he has dropped a fair few from what was looking so potent from him earlier on in the race. Biggest mover up the field is Ben Williams, up to 6th place, and he's looking to get into 5th place now. 29 places gained for Ben Williams. What a race he's having. And just behind him, Peter Dempsey, 27 places gained. And just behind him, Ollie Peters, 23 places gained. We are seeing big moves from drivers tonight on such a difficult track to overtake on. Credit to them.
Oh, indeed. Fantastic moving up the field. But I do wonder now whether there'll be some anxiety creeping in for a couple of these guys who they've gained so many places over the course of the race. Only 2 minutes to go, as it looks as though that was Pete Dempsey just tapping the wall coming out of the third chicane. And that anxiety I'm referring to is they've gained so many places. Are they going to get a little bit nervous now about they've seen that some big names fall down the field through contact on the end of the lap? As you see Rowbottom in the rear of the pitch going for people. We've got a car spun there on the hairpin. I think that's Kent. And then, whoa, no, it's not Kent. That was Maguire who's gone for a spin. But as they all come through now, it does look as though all the gloves are coming off and the elbows are out from all of our drivers. And, well, at this point in time, we'll take a look back from David Maguire's perspective for the third person right now. What happened here? I think it might be the case he's just got it wrong under braking into the hairpin.
Oh, no.
Oh, in fact, no.
I think that's Lewis Kent. It was Lewis Kent, just completely outbroke himself and went straight into David Maguire. A very strange one indeed. Oh, it might have seemed that Lewis Kent forgot which one's the brake pedal for a minute there. But David Maguire, luckily for him, he's able to keep it going. A few positions lost, granted, but he's still in a good place, 7th place here. He's got to hang on ahead of Ollie Peters here. But still, with 1 lap to go, it is Jamie Dory at the front. He has lost a little bit of time to Wayne Douglas, but he won't mind. He will still be hanging on to that first spot in the race here, and that will be enough to pick up, I believe, a first win of the season here, Paul.
That is correct, and in Dory's mind right now, I think he'll be backing it off completely at this point in terms. He'll be driving at about 90 to 85% of his maximum. He'll know that he won't want to push too hard. The only thing he won't want to do is let Douglas gain the lead over him. And the reason for that is because we would see history made in this series where we'd see a Pro-Am win a race overall, where we normally would expect to see our pros take the win. But of course, that's just a little bit of narcissism on my part. It's more of the case that right now you can see that Jamie Dory just pressing on, but he is just trying to get this car home. And Douglas, in fact, is really flying around. He stripped half a second out of Jamie Dory in that chicane, with Dory going a little bit deep under braking. And I believe we've had a bit of an off-track moment. Pete Dempsey's got up to P4 now in the Pro-Am drivers up into P4 overall and P2 in his class. And he's continuing up the field as he's now got Ben Williams behind him.
Oh, we've also got a big battle back here. Ollie Peters with a big lunge to the inside. Ollie Peters has to straight line the hairpin to avoid an instant, and he'll lose a few places here. Oh, and there's an instant there for... that was David Maguire. He bumps up into the air, but we must revert to our race leader and eventual winner. If he can get through the chicane, okay. Jamie Dory in the pro category will be a new face to the podium, the top step of the podium. The host of our series takes a win finally in this series. Jamie Dory wins race 2 of round 4 here. Wayne Douglas takes another Pro-Am category win. Not an outright win like what he did a few weeks ago, but he takes 2nd place. James Warrior on his debut takes 3rd position. A great effort from him. Lewis Kent will come through to finish 4th. Dan Rowbottom recovers really well to 5th place. And Ollie Peters not the biggest gainer of the field, but one of the biggest gainers. 25 places gained to 6th position. Fantastic from him. David Whitehouse, first commandingly in the AM category. 7th overall for him. Ben Williams takes 8th. He was the biggest gainer. 27 places gained. Fantastic from Ben Williams in that race. David Maguire in 9th, and rounding off the top 10 is Lee Holmes. Another strong performance for him. But your race winner, Jamie Dory. And it seems rather fitting that the league host wins a race. Would you agree, Paul?
I think so. It's always good to see the league host taking the win, and what it goes to show at the end of the day as well, that the series is being hosted and organised by somebody who knows the craft. It's not a case that they don't know anything about sim racing. They're right up there with the guys they're racing with. Of course, we wouldn't want the host to win every single race, because then there might be some questions of bias or favouritism, but it is good to see that the organisers are getting their teeth into it and getting right into the mix.
Yeah, it's not. Yes, it's not a fix, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. But credit where credit's due. A huge grid like this, it takes some going to take a win like this, and you're going to take a win like this because with more drivers in the field, really, it sounds a little bit obvious, but there's more chance of finishing lower down the field and getting less points. So you got to take results like this. You've really, really got to capitalise on results like this, and that's exactly what a lot of these drivers have done in this race.
Oh, definitely. It's been a case where others have fallen, individuals have risen, and really, it's one of those situations, well, John, we said at the start just how close and tight this circuit is and how the instant rate is so high as a result, and we are seeing it time and time again. We've seen it in both races, major incidents. Race 2, to be fair, didn't have as much of an incident at the start, but it's had some huge moments going throughout the race, and that's really shaken up the field.
I'm going to revert back to Dan Rowbottom's overtake in the chicane. I believe this isn't it, so we'll head back a few more places here, see if I can actually find it. Because for me, that was one of the best overtakes of the season so far. I'm just trying to find it. I'm struggling a little bit here. Come on, where is it? But yeah, we saw lots of great battling from many drivers in that race there. It's just testament to the kind of racing that MX-5s can provide, and I think I might have found it here. Not too sure, but it's testament to the kind of racing that we do get from these drivers in this kind of car.
Oh, most definitely. And I think that's one of the things as well. It's knowing how much you can push, because you don't have that much speed in these cars. So as a result, you've got to take every little bit of the circuit. You've got to take every inch of the track and also know where you can carry the speed. And that is really the test. And that's why this circuit in particular is such a difficult one, because it does feel like a long lap. But really, that lap goes by very fast. That 2 minutes or just shy of 2 minutes lap will go quicker than you imagine it, particularly with so many straights around here. And carrying 1 extra mile an hour speed out of a corner onto one of these straights is the difference between you being able to make the overtake or being stuck behind the driver come the end of it. Absolutely. I think this might be the move we're looking at for Dan Rowbottom here. Finds it to the inside, brake so late, had to almost straight line the chicane, kept it within the track limits and kept it away from the wall of champions, more importantly. That for me is one of the overtakes of the season, but we've seen that now. We're going to go through the results of this race here, race 2 here at Montreal, round 4 of the championship. Jamie Dory takes the win from Wayne Douglas in 2nd. James Warrior 3rd from Lewis Kent. Dan Rowbottom recovers to 5th after an incident later on in that race, with Ollie Peters taking 6th place after the drama he had in race 1. Dave Whitehouse, another good consistent performance from him, 7th place with Ben Williams in 8th position. 9th for Lee Holmes with David Maguire 10th. Adam Delmont 11th with Peter Dempsey in 12th. Adam Morgan recovers to 13th after the disappointment of race 1. Alex Denning 14th with John Burnham in 15th position. Ben Bennyworth 16th, followed by Deegan Fairclough in 17th place. And further down the field in 18th was Mark Arrowsmith, 2nd in the AM category, so a good haul of points for him, with Liam Silkstone in 19th, Nigel Stock 20th. Paul Scott in 21st with Pete Newman in 22nd, Mark Oliver 23rd with Lee Horn in 24th. 25th goes to Niall Murray with Nick Clibbins in 26th, Glenn Humberston 27th, Tom Delaney 28th, Aaron Thompson in 29th, John Higgins in 30th, 31st goes to Keith Dempsey, and one lap down is Rob McGregor, Matt Emmons 33rd, 34th Steve Thompson, 35th to Sam Smith, and Senan Fielding 36th. And I believe reverse grid pole will go to the last of the finishers, which could
be Keith Dempsey. It remains to be seen, but it could be Keith Dempsey with a 31 full reverse grid. So a nice and exciting reverse grid for the final race of the night coming up very, very shortly. This has been myself and Paul Walsh for second race of the night, the third race, the 25-minute feature race coming up very soon. We'll see you shortly for the final race of the night in the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup, round 4 at Montreal.
Oh, you make me wanna talk back to you. Say it like that. If I hate you, then find someone new. Baby, but you know I never will. No, so I choke you down just like a pill. Say sorry. Oh, maybe I'll leave. Baby, but you know I never will. No, so I choke you down just like a pill. We're dreaming in the dark. We are nothing more than dust. Search but you stay lost. We are reaching for the stars, but we're making this too hard. And I wonder where you are. Mysterious, that's the part you always show. 'Cause you're too curious. Maybe you should take it slow. Mysterious, that's the part you always show. 'Cause you're too curious. Maybe you should take it slow. We're dreaming in the dark. We are nothing more than dust. You search but you stay lost. We're reaching for the stars. We're making this too hard. And I wonder where you are. Mysterious, that's the part you always show. 'Cause you're too curious. Maybe you should take it slow. Mysterious, that's the part you always show. 'Cause you're too curious. Maybe you should take it slow.
Welcome back, everyone, to Montreal, the Notre Dame Island in the middle of the river across the middle of Montreal, and we are back with the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup. Race 3 coming up very, very shortly, and the cloud creeps over us here on this legendary circuit, synonymous with Formula 1. And we have had 30 minutes of competitive driving so far, and we've got another 25 minutes to look forward to in the next race. So far, we have had Deegan Fairclough taking the first race win, and then the race 2 win coming from Jamie Dory, his first win of the season. But Paul, this third race coming up very shortly. We've got a huge reverse grid of nearly 30 cars, I believe. This could be a very interesting race. Again, there's some big movers in race 2 that we could see some more big movers in this race coming up very shortly.
Oh, most definitely. And I think really now that we're heading into a 25-minute race, and as I understand it, there's no pit stop expected in this race. It is all the way through and through. One thing I did notice towards the end of race 2, a number of moments where drivers were going down into the turn 12 hairpin and outbraking themselves into the corner, even when they weren't batting. I'm wondering if some drivers are picking up some brake fade towards the end of the 15 minutes. And if that's the case, can you imagine what's going to happen over 25 minutes? Because those brakes are going to take a battering here.
That's a very good point. As well as tyre wear as well, that means they're not going to get so much grip and their cars will not slow down quite as easy with that lack of grip. But all remains to be seen in this next 25 minutes or so, and we'll go through the grid for this final race of the night. It is Rob McGregor who lines up on the front row of the grid, and alongside him is Keith Dempsey. Keep an eye on him as he has good pace. John Higgins in third place, followed by Aaron Thompson in the fourth position. Fifth to Tom Delaney and Glenn Humberston in sixth. Nick Clibbins is in 7th with Niall Murray in 8th, Lee Horn in 9th. Mark Oliver lines up rounding off the top 10. Pete Newman in 11th place with Paul Scott in 12th. Nigel Stock 13th with Liam Silkstone in 14th. Mark Arrowsmith 15th with Deegan Fairclough in 16th. Ben Bennyworth 17th with John Burnham in 18th. Alex Denning in 19th with Adam Morgan in 20th. Peter Dempsey in 21st with Adam Delmont 22nd. 23rd to David Maguire. 24th is Lee Holmes. 25th Ben Williams. David Whitehouse 26th. Ollie Peters 27th. Dan Rowbottom 28th. 29th to Lewis Kent. James Warrior in 30th. And I have to cut myself off as we're about to get underway for the third race of the night. On the front row is McGregor with Dempsey alongside, and away we go. And it looks like a good start from the front two yet again. Nothing happening in the mid-pack just yet, but down towards turn 1 we go. It's actually a very good start for Keith Dempsey here. He gets in with his nose in front, but on the inside is Rob McGregor. He makes it through and into the first spot. Oh, and a big sideways moment on the cold tyres. Keith Dempsey goes through and Tom Delaney spins round. He collects another car and he's trying to squirrel his way in the middle of the track here. All cars avoiding it, but it seems they can't. Big incident in the mid-pack. Pete Newman is involved. I can see track is blocked and they have called a caution to stop the cars. But there are a lot of casualties in that first part of the race. The second corner of the race here, Paul.
Oh, indeed, and it did look as though it was very unfortunate with Delaney just going a little bit sideways coming out of 2 and in the run-up to 3, and I think he just couldn't get the car stopped in time, and as a result that started a concertina effect where everybody came into a wayward car and won. I'm not saying that Delaney triggered off all the incidents there, but it was the case that everyone, as they came out to turn 2, Delaney set off one chain reaction, but I think there was also another moment a little bit further down as we saw a number of drivers coming together. But what's quite interesting I also noticed there was David Whitehouse decided to start from the pits. He jumped to the pits just as the gridding procedure ended, and in fact because of that he came out of the pits right into all of that and is still in P32, but I think he'll be breathing a sigh of relief that he wasn't involved in that incident, which could have seen his race completely get scuppered. But we're taking a look back now. You can see Nigel Stock actually went a bit deep there, but already Delaney had lost the car to a degree. And then as everybody came through, you could see everybody started to come through, and a lot of drivers not aware of the fact that an incident had occurred were coming in at full speed, not noticing that some cars ahead were going slower, and the guys who were in the middle of that really just got sandwiched between slow cars and fast cars behind, and that is what's led to a significant pile-up. But it does look as though the majority of our Mazda drivers have been able to get those cars restarted. They're all going to be on the same lap, and if they can get them fixed under this caution, we should still have the vast majority racing once again. As we take another look back from the sky view here from the blimp, and you can see just how Delaney getting it wrong, clipped Pete Newman, and this is where it all came. As you can see just how many drivers then came up behind thinking we're at full speed racing, guys, there's no yellow flag here, and then all this contact that subsequently occurred, and that's only then we see Jamie Dory literally parking up right behind the incident, and he led to throwing the caution and will the safety car being out. Very unfortunate, but it looks like most people got away from it unscathed in terms of their races are still technically intact should they be able to get that car out the pits.
The whole chaos that sort of came that caused the caution, it was the coming together between Tom Delaney, who was recovering, switching the car side to side. I don't think he could quite control it due to the damage he had, but it was him and Adam Morgan that came together that really caused that big, I can only describe it as a pile-up really, coming out of turn 2 there. Pete Newman had a lot of contact from side to side on him, and it's a shame to see his race in tatters at the moment. Jamie Dory has gone into the pits. He's coming out of the pits now. I wonder what he's actually opted to do. Is it take on fuel or anything like that, or repair some damage? But he's going to join the back of the train here, and he's going to get a chance to get his way through the pack, as will a lot of drivers here. But time is not, it's ticking by, it's not necessarily running out. There's still a long race, and no sign of the pace car at the moment. So I do wonder how long we are going to stick behind this pace car, and we didn't actually get racing underway until 7 minutes were expired in the first race. And I'm not seeing the pace car ahead of Keith Dempsey here, and I wonder if it has been called in already, and he is backing up the field quite a long way back.
Potentially, but I think, and you can see the pace car in fact just going through the hairpin. I think the lights are off from the pace car, and it's Case Dempsey just backing the field up. Of course, he can choose to go in the final sector here, and as they make the way on through the hairpin, I think Dempsey already, well, he's backing everyone up still, but when will he go? Will he try and do what was done earlier, of course, by Deegan Fairclough, which was to essentially go quite late in the day, or will he go early? I think it would be a bit dangerous for him to go early, simply because he'd be vulnerable to an overtake come the end of the straight.
Yeah, he's got to time this just right. He's given the safety car a big gap ahead, but he's catching up with the safety car now. I'm just wondering, the lights are not off on the safety car. Is it going to go into the pits? We'll see. We'll stay with this camera angle, see what happens. It's going around again, so we're getting another lap behind the safety car. It's just Keith Dempsey keeping a long way off behind the safety car. And they'll go around for another lap, and it'll probably be next time by. So the order as it stands, although not much has changed a great deal. Keith Dempsey has snuck into first place, past Rob McGregor to take the lead. Aaron Thompson sneaks into second place, up 2 places. Rob McGregor third. From Glenn Humberston, a quiet night for him so far, in fourth. Niall Murray in fifth. John Higgins in sixth place, with Nick Clibbins in seventh. Lee Horn in eighth. And ninth is Paul Scott. He's first of the AM category drivers at the moment. And Deegan Fairclough in 10th place. He's actually one of the biggest gainers through all that chaos so far. Only 2 corners of this race endured. And he's already up to 10th place from 16th. So, yeah, plenty still to go for all these drivers. 20 minutes of racing still, so plenty of time for these drivers to establish better positions. But a few races have ended already. 4 drivers' races have ended. Pete Newman, Nigel Stock, David Whitehouse and Wayne Douglas. But however, I say that, Pete Newman, Nigel Stock and Dave Whitehouse and Wayne Douglas are leaving the pits, so they're not out of this race. They have just come in for some repairs. I'm trying to see if they're actually any laps down. Then I don't think they are. Let's take a look at the gap here. They are on the lead lap, so they will get another roll of the dice, it seems.
Oh, definitely. I think the reason why we're seeing the field go around so slowly with Dempsey being our leader here, I think what Dempsey's trying to do, he's trying to protect the car, because he must be aware, and we were talking earlier about this with regards to the tyres and the brakes really coming to the end of life in that 15-minute window. I think what it is, with the slow pace of what is the safety car, and the fact that looking at how much time is being stripped out this race right now, if he can really nurse the car going around at such slow pace, it's going to keep the car in its prime for longer. Because you can imagine, once we get to about what would be if you had 15 minutes on from the end of this lap, so with about 2 minutes remaining in that final 2 minutes of the race, we're pretty much on a cliffhanger in terms of the car for each and every driver. And I don't think Dempsey wants the car to near that. I think he's trying to take all the life out of this race in this part, just so that way the car's literally in its prime all the way through to the end.
And I think the lights are off on the safety car. But Keith Dempsey, I think you're right actually with that theory. Just to confirm, Paul, I think you are right with that theory. Keith is trying to take things very easy, but he's trying to get a good blast down this straight, so he can almost straight line and take the chicane at full speed. Let's see what happens. He gains the speed. Hasn't floored it just yet. He's teasing the cars behind. It seems. Look how bunched up it is. He isn't gone yet. Now he's chosen his moment. Aaron Thompson got a bit close and had to back off, and that's when Keith Dempsey decided to put his foot down. Into the chicane we go. We're going to restart racing now with 7.5 minutes expired. Dempsey leads out of the chicane and will start the next lap of the race in the lead. Through we go past the start-finish line, and it is a sea of MX-5 cars coming down towards turn 1 here. Let's see what else is going on elsewhere in the field. We've got the AM category leader at the moment, Paul Scott, defending from Deegan Fairclough, and they come together. And there's another spin up ahead. That is Nick Clibbins as well. I think that's Nick Clibbins, or it is Glenn Humberston. It's Glenn Humberston off in the middle here. So there's quite a few things to keep an eye on. Deegan Fairclough involved in contact there with Paul Scott. And Paul Scott is being sent down the order. He's just stranded on the inside there. And now he'll get away again. And we'll see if we can get a quick replay of that. But at the front here, Paul, we have got Keith Dempsey against Aaron Thompson.
Yeah, and Dempsey, whilst he did a very good job at the start there to essentially dupe Aaron Thompson and give himself a good advantage of 6.5 tenths, Thompson has left it no time at all in order to charge onto the back of Dempsey as we get the replay here of what occurred earlier on.
A bit of netcode between the two.
Indeed, the netcode there just catching out the driver, and that's very unfortunate, and really that has spelled what was a good opportunity and turned it into what is a bit of a disaster as we continue to see the elements of the replay here, I believe, or at least on our screens. And as we come back to now what is the helicopter view, you can see there just a small tap in Glenn Humberstone's race going for a twiddle onto the grass there, and that's very unfortunate for the 88 Tech driver who was very well placed. But now as we do look back to live pictures, we can see it's the case he's dropped all the way down to P22, and now he has got a charging army of Mark Arrowsmith and Sam Smith behind him as we look back further up the field, and we can see Adam Morgan side by side with Tom Delaney here. Delaney being our lead driver in the AM class after all the drama on the opening lap. Delaney has survived it all, and he is trying to hold off the pro driver who's chasing after him as they make their way up towards what is the chicane of the World Champions once more. Now, in terms of what can Delaney do here, well, I think he's going to be more at the mercy of whether Adam Morgan decides to send it completely. He does not at this point. I think it's the case that Morgan 9, there's a lot more to this race than just 15 minutes. As we see just up ahead, Denning getting it a bit wrong there, but looks like we've got 3 wide coming across the timeline to go down onto another lap, and it looks as though it's going to be Denning. Oh, goodness me, we've got Aaron Thompson into the wall. Some big names falling down, and Dempsey still leading this race, but Aaron Thompson, now what on earth has happened to him, Alex?
Side by side, it seems, with Keith Dempsey, and somehow he got to the right side. Oh, and Keith Dempsey just turns across. That's all that can be described from that. He just turns across on Aaron Thompson and sends him into the wall. Not entirely sure what happened there. It might have been an internet connection or something like that, but that just seems so uncharacteristic. It just seemed to swipe left of the steering wheel there, and he retains the lead. But well, if he goes on to... Oh, there's another instant further back here. That is Deegan Fairclough. He's into the wall, as is Tom Delaney and Alex Denning there off in the middle here. It's all kicking off in this third race here. Deegan Fairclough, our race 1 winner. Let's see if we can get a quick replay of that. Tom Delaney involved with Alex Denning.
Well, Fairclough was nowhere near this instant make. Oh, goodness me.
Road, yeah. The separate instant between Tom Delaney and Alex Denning, the instant between Deegan Fairclough and I think it's Liam Silkstone. So that is Liam Silkstone behind. Into the chicane we go. It's a big outbreak of themselves here from Liam Silkstone, and it takes Deegan Fairclough out here. And has Deegan, I think Deegan has reset to the pits as he couldn't quite get away from this kerfuffle here between Delaney and Denning. And Fairclough, I think, is in the pits. So bad. Well, a good night. It started off Deegan, and it's gone to worse now for him. But the racing does rage on still. A lot of drivers establishing their positions. Lee Horn here has made it through into the lead as Rob McGregor spins it, and he just about avoids all the carnage behind. And we didn't quite see what happened there either. But Lee Horn inherits the lead in the Pro-Am category, and this is another instant. This is Rob McGregor versus... Can't quite tell who's behind, but it is the Wall of Champions. Yes, it is. Rob McGregor goes into the Wall of Champions and just about avoids everyone, pulls it away from the racing line. But our first to go properly into the wall there, it seems, Paul.
Indeed, I think McGregor was just trying to carry enough speed as he was in pursuit at that time of the drivers ahead of him, but in trying to do so in such a fashion, just pushed it a little bit too hard. He's coming on through there as it looks as though Maguire with a slowdown in the run into what is the third of the chicanes. The first of the chicanes, I should say, as he comes up into the second one right now. But they're all pushing very hard here, and I do wonder if at this point some drivers are overworking the car, because we are seeing quite a few incidents or mistakes from drivers here, which we perhaps wouldn't have expected to see at the start or in the first half of this 25-minute race, race number 3. There could also be tied arms and legs as our drivers continue to press on here. We see McGregor and Maguire battling side by side here down to the third chicane. Maguire's back ahead, and McGregor looks to seize the opportunity on the inside. He hasn't quite got it on the brakes, that these two, I think, are trying to trade blows, and it is the case. It's a rivalry forming. It's a bit further up the road. We've got Niall Murray here ahead of what is Liam Silverstone as they make their way into the turn 12 hairpin, and just ahead Aaron Thompson, who with a wounded MX-5, he's holding on for time, but we saw a bit of brake dust there kicking up off of the rear brakes in particular under braking into the hairpin, but he's pressing on Aaron Thompson right now, and I think he knows there's a major opportunity further up the road, as right now the Pro-Am driver is second in class with Lee Horn only 2.5 seconds away from him.
Lee Horn, the leader of the Pro-Am category at the moment in this race, but David Whitehouse is the leader in the Am category again tonight. But he has had a little bit of luck on his side, as the two Am category driver leaders of this race before David Whitehouse, that was Paul Scott and Tom Delaney, both involved in incidents. So David Whitehouse will see an opportunity to stay out of trouble here. Something's happened a bit further up. Lee Holmes, who was second in the championship going into tonight, he has had an incident going into the final chicane. It's him versus Lewis Kent here, I believe.
It's McGregor.
That is McGregor, do excuse me. Oh, and the two came together. Hard to call that one. It just seems the two paths crossed and sent them both into the wall. Lee Holmes, his race and championship lead may be in tatters here.
It does look as though the two of them there, they both wanted to get onto that racing line, and in the end they crossed past, and well, at such high speeds. I mean, I say such high speeds, and little MX-5, you think I'm taking the MiG. It is the case, we're being sarcastic, I should say, in plainative English, but it is the case that you've got such short reaction times into heavy braking zones, and both drivers, they're both going to be on the same line, and contact was only inevitable. But looking up at the front right now, looking back from Keith Dempsey's car here, the Team BC driver, who's leading right now, and the Pro driver's got Higgins behind him, and Higgins keeping close, and further back we've got Lee Horn and then Clibbens. Clibbens, of course, remember, is our third place Pro driver at the moment, P4 overall. He's got Lee Horn between himself and the top two. I think these four are forming a little bit of a partnership right now, in terms of, I think they're all looking to take the lead this race, which is only natural as a racing driver, but I think they're also all realising, look, we've still got quite a bit of this race to go. Let's not do anything drastic at this point, because A, it may lead to another caution being thrown, and B, it could lead to the likes of, say, Murray down in P5 closing up, and they all are keeping it relatively safe and simple right now as they make their way down towards the World Championship chicane. Once again, they head down towards turn 13, but you can see Lee Horn here definitely sizing up an opportunity. He's actually going to make things uncomfortable for Higgins by staying on that outside line. Higgins, to be fair, able to take the racing line in. I do wonder if Horn lifted out a little bit there. It did look as though he was getting that momentum, and then he lost it. I think Lee Horn's playing the bigger picture. I think he's aware of the fact he's racing against pros right now, and he doesn't need to beat them.
I know Lee Horn very well, raced with him many times, and I know Lee Horn plans his overtakes very carefully. He's got to be set as side by side between Higgins and Dempsey. Going into turn 2, Dempsey holds the better line the inside, and Lee Horn might be able to undercut towards that second place. Dabbing on the brakes there was John Higgins, going around the corner trying to keep it just behind Keith Dempsey and not lose too much momentum, but no move just yet from Higgins, although he has been sniffing around the rear end of the Irish driver's MX-5 there through turns 1 and 2, and the battle will rage on still. 4-car battle here. Nick Clibbens joins it, tying onto the back of the train here, which was headed by Lee Horn, now tailed by Nick Clibbens. Keith Dempsey at the front here, holds on at the moment. Who is going to play the move? Who is going to play the big move? Because if one of these drivers at the back of this train here makes a move, it could lose them momentum, it could lose them time and a gap to the drivers up ahead as we head into the third chicane here.
Well, I think it's Higgins right now who's feeling a little bit uncomfortable. I think he's got a bit of sweat coming down his neck with Horn really putting pressure on. And look at Clibbens here. He knows he's just got to let Lee Horn do the work. You can see Higgins is having to defend each corner here. This is not comfortable for him. And as they come down to the hairpin, I think Lee Horn there... Oh, goodness me! And is that contact?
Yes, it was. All right, we'll get a quick replay of that. It just seemed that the two at the front came together. So this is the aerial view. We'll be able to see the contact on the rear of Keith Dempsey. Look at the black car behind of Nick Clibbens. Not Nick Clibbens. I can't remember who it is. John Higgins, sorry. Higgins. Yeah, he just heads into the back of him. I think Dempsey went through the corner slower than Higgins was expecting. Let's get another quick shot of that before we carry on. Lee Horn inherits the lead of the race. We'll check back with him very soon. Just want to check this again. And there was no contact from Lee Horn, but you could see Higgins was very squirrely under the brakes there, and he just couldn't get the car slowed down enough. I just wonder if he carried too much speed through the hairpin. But Things still rage on. These two gone out of it scot-free. It is Lee Horn at the front of the grid. His teammate Jamie Dory won race 2. Can Lee Horn win this one? Nick Clibbins is behind. Nick Clibbins has had a relatively quiet season so far, but he's doing very well in the championship. It's got to be said, in the pro category championship. He sits coming into tonight's 6th position. A good haul of points for him here will certainly help his championship bid.
Indeed, and as they make their way through now towards the halfway point of the current lap, it does look as though Clibbins just taken the silent but deadly approach here in terms of not really having too much to be shouted home about with regards to his individual overtakes, but being deadly in terms of gaining those places and being that ever-present threat as he makes his way up through the field. And you can see that right now, whilst he's not putting too much pressure on Lee Horn, Horn's going to be feeding it gradually, and this top 3 really has broken away with our P4 driver of Maguire the best part of 7 seconds back, and in a battle William Silkstone. So the 2 prime drivers in the battle for P4 overall, and then we've got the top 3 here as they make their way through. But we look back now to Maguire, who's trying to hold off Liam Silkstone, but he's going to have to be smart about this one for the simple reason that down in P6 right now is John Higgins, who had that incident only moments ago with Keith Dempsey, and now you can see it is the case that Higgins, Dempsey and also Bennyworth a little bit further back, all charging up. As we see there, it's the case that McGregor having to move out the way under blue flags there, and it looks like Higgins in fact getting a bit squirrely under brake and just going in too deep, and it's an opportunity here for Dempsey to exact retribution as they make the way in the run down towards the final 2 quarters. That's a drag race here, and you can see Dempsey's going to be on the inside versus Higgins on the outside. They build up the speed further up the road. We can see that Clibbins has found a way through, but he's also found a way to cut a bit of the chicane there, and I think he will get slowed down. He does indeed, as Lee Horn's now having to hold off Murray, and remember, Murray and Horn are battling for the lead of the Pro-Am class here. Meanwhile, Clibbins is a pro driver who just wants to get in the mix, and as they make their way into another lap, it's going to be Murray on the inside into turn 1. It will present him the outside of 2. Lee Horn's aware of this and puts his nose right in there. As you can see, Murray just tries to turn in, but he finds Lee Horn's there and he can't turn in fully as much as he'd like. The 2 of them emerge side by side, but in the end it's Lee Horn who holds on, but Murray now goes to the switchback into turn 3. They come into the chicane and Murray goes to the move on the inside here, and as they emerge, the Murray Motorsport driver gets the lead in a very classic sequence of to me to you. And as they now make their way through 5 and up towards the next chicane, when they come charging through, we've got a bit of a connectivity issue for Murray. I'm hopeful it's not the case that he's completely disconnected from the lobby, although it looks as though he may have, and if so, that's a disaster.
Oh, he just got the lead in the race, and yes, I think Murray has disconnected. Usually they come back quite quickly, but it seems like the unacceptable packet loss, I think, is called on iRacing, so that'll be it for Niall Murray. His race over. Lee Horn has got him off the hook a little bit there. Very strange indeed. These things do happen. The internet disconnection on iRacing is probably the sim racing equivalent of an engine blowing up in real life racing. It is just heartbreaking, and sometimes it just can't be helped either. But here we go. The racing rages on still. 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes to go in this race. Lee Horn holds the lead. Now, he hasn't got an overall win to his name this season. I think he did pick up a few in the Legends Cup in the last few seasons. Nick Clibbins is new to the Next Gen racing scene, and he hasn't got a win in the MX-5 Cup just yet. So, all down to these two at the moment, providing they can keep their noses clean. And the win is on, the outright win, should I say, is on between them. But both of them hold the win in their categories right now.
Indeed, and as they both make their way through, you can see Clibbins carrying a lot more momentum through the chicane, just has that confidence, and it does look as though he's building up to something spectacular as they now go into another lap here. And based on the time remaining, it looks as though we're going to have 2 more laps, including the one they've just gone on to, as they make their way through turns 1 and 2. But you can see Lee Horn already aware of the approaching Clibbins as they make their way on through the corners. But a bit further down the field, we're hearing that it's the case. We've got some places being exchanged, and will Pete Newman here find on the inside. He's got a fast charging what his driver of Higgins coming on through, but then Higgins goes a bit deep into the Raj centre, and as they make their way out and up towards 3, it's Newman on the inside in the run up towards the chicane. It's going to be Higgins on the outside, and then just behind them where you've got, oh goodness me, there's contact between the 2 of them, and just not a case of trying. Well, I think that is the case that, well, one driver thought his MX-5 was a bit narrower than the other.
Oh, and I thought John Higgins was going to come back onto the track there. Let's get a quick replay of that, see what actually happened. Oh, Pete Newman moving across there in braking zone. It seems he just seems to move left to try and get himself back onto the racing line. And Higgins was alongside him. And that is a crabbing car indeed there for John Higgins. And that is going to be a race from bad to worse for Higgins. He's down in 31st. I think he is in the pits now. Yes, he is. And that is race over for Higgins. Debut hasn't gone so well for him. back at the front here, very close between these two. Before we watch potentially the final lap between these two, leader of the AM category is Dave Whitehouse in 15th place here, right in the middle of some big battles here. Love to watch that, but we must keep an eye on this battle for the lead. Now, what does Nick Clibbins do? Does he go for the lead now, or does he wait for the next lap to get himself past? He's going to take to the inside of Lee Horn for the chicane. Can he get it through? He's got his nose ahead, and Lee Horn will probably surrender this to try and tuck it back in behind. He does, and he's going to try and get a good run on either the exit of this corner or the next corner. But actually, it was Nick Clibbins who got a very good run through the chicane there. Lee Horn has got it all to do on this lap, potentially the final lap of the race here. But I think it is the white flag. I can't quite see it, but judging by the time and this being a near 2-minute lap, this will be the final lap for these drivers. They'll be aware of it, that's for certain. It shows up on their HUD in iRacing when it is the final lap. White flag is waved in American traditional racing rules. White flag in Britain is actually a completely different rule. Not to go into that too much right now because we've got racing to watch. Nick Clibbins holds the lead here and is extending it a little bit from Lee Horn. Has Lee Horn got the tyres to hang on to it? He needs a good couple of corners here to try and catch up. It was a good run through the mid-section of the track there between turns 5 and 6. Can he get right onto the rear of Clibbins for this final part of the lap? There's a lot of shuffling of positions further down the order, and we'll refer to them as soon as we can. But this is the battle for the race win. They're going to win their categories if they can keep things in a straight line right now. Clibbins winning the Pro category, Horn winning the Pro-Am category. Out of the third chicane they go, down towards the hairpin. This will be Lee Horn's opportunity. He needs to keep it close, try and get a good slipstream coming out of the hairpin at least. He takes to the inside. Is this a dive for the lead? He can't quite make it. He's going to have to take a deep line through the hairpin to try and get a good exit. Good exit from Lee Horn. He's fairly close. What can Clibbins do? He has to try and defend. He has to try and force Horn to the outside, or does he force him to the inside? Either way, Horn is getting a good run on Clibbins here. Has he got enough time to get alongside? Time's running out here down this straight. Here we go. Clibbins is defending the inside. Horn moves to the outside. Can he be the latest of the breakers? Clibbins has got his nose ahead. Who's going to be the latest? Both fairly level on the brakes. Horn turns to the corner, but he can't get it into the apex. Clibbins will move through into the lead, and he'll take the win in this race. Lee Horn has to serve a slow down. Clibbins takes his first outright win of the season. And further back, Lee Horn takes the win in the Pro-Am category. Maguire takes second on his debut, and Liam Silkstone takes third in the category and fourth overall. Pete Newman second position in the Pro category. A good recovery for him after what was actually not sorry, let me rephrase my words, was an unsatisfactory evening for him. Adam Delmont in third place in category, sixth place overall, and winner of the AM category. Oh, and a lot of contact to come across the line there between a few drivers, but it is Dave Whitehouse who manages to get across the line first in the AM category, just ahead of Mark Arrowsmith here, who comes through another second place in category. But Dave Whitehouse, I believe, has won all 3 races in the AM category, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's correct. He's taken the win in all 3 tonight. He has been an absolute dominant workhorse within the AM category, and it has really shown time and time again. But I think really race number 3 tonight as well, it's had a lot of dramas. And with regards to Clibbins there in the battle with Lee Horn, I thought Clibbins was going to put it right into the wall. He did tap the wall with the right-hand side of the car of the World Champions literally on that final lap. Well, I had literally had my eyes closed thinking that car was going to end up sandwiched in the wall.
Let's get another replay of that final battle between Nick Clibbins. It was a good effort from Lee Horn, but I don't think he could get enough speed. He did try valiantly around the outside here, but he didn't get the car slowed down enough. Had to cut the chicane. Oh, and a bit of a rub at the wall of champions there from Nick Clibbins. But champion of this race, he proceeds on to win the race. But yeah, good battling from them too. Lee Horn, he had the right plan, but it just didn't pull off for him, did it?
No, it didn't quite work off, but I think Horn will take that in his stride and think to himself, you know what, at the end of the day, we still got the win in the Pro-Am class. Also, it was a good drive from Lee Horn, and also he'll take comfort from the fact that he was battling with one of the major contenders in the Pro class and really going toe-to-toe, and it's fantastic racing between the two of them.
Certainly did, yeah. And before we move on to any interviews or anything like that, we got Paul Walsh delivering the results of race 3 for you here. Take it away, Paul.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, with race number 3, then, our winner overall and winner of the Pro Class, Nick Clibbens, winning in the end by 2 seconds due to a slowdown, which Lee Horn, our second place finisher and winner in the Pro Class, picked up when he went wide at the final chicane on the final lap. David Maguire came home in P3, completing our overall podium, and P2 within the Pro Class, and Liam Steelstone complete our top 3 in the Pro Class, coming P4. Pete Newman and Adam Delmont, they're finishing P5, P6, completing our Pro podium, with Keith Dempsey just missing out, Lewis Kent in P8, Ben Bennyworth P9, and Sam Smith completing our top 10. Ben Williams, Ollie Peters, Aaron Thompson, and Jamie Dory from P11 to P14, all having mixed reactions and mixed races throughout. But then David Whitehouse, who came home in P15, he is our triple winner today at Montreal in the AM class, and he will take that momentum to the next round, I'm sure. P16 went to Lee Holmes, and then it was Mark Arrowsmith in P17. Mark Arrowsmith second win the AM class in the end, and James Warrior coming home in P18. Looking outside of our top 18, we can see then Wayne Douglas in P19, with Matt Emmons, our guest driver, coming home in P20, and then Tom Delaney completing our AM podium in the number 555 car, finishing at P21 after that very difficult and awkward start to the race. John Burnham P22 ahead of Peter Dempsey, and Nigel Stott P24, Paul Scott P25, our AM driver there having a difficult day at the races, Glenn Humberstone P26, Daniel Rowbottom P27, and Mark Oliver P28, and then coming to the end of our standings here for race number 3, Rob McGregor and John Higgins completing our top 30, and then Noel Murray, Adam Morgan, Deegan Fairclough, and NXTGEN completing our overall finishing order, albeit those drivers being involved in a number of instances, particularly Fairclough and also Denning right towards the start of the race.
And there are your results of race 3, and we are going to have, well, we've got a big queue of interviews actually, so we'll try and make it through as many as we can, but I think I'm going to call upon a certain David Whitehouse to step into the interview waiting room. Dave Whitehouse, I believe that is 3 AM category victories for you tonight. What did you eat for breakfast?
I'm not sure it is. I don't think I won the second one, but
oh, you had to ruin that, didn't you?
I'm sure there's one I didn't win because Tom Delaney, I think, won it. But yeah, it's the last one definitely won it, so that's extended my championship lead, which is the aim of the game, with each class being a bit smaller. But it was absolute chaos out there at times.
Yeah, it was quite difficult. We always knew it was going to be quite difficult here at Montreal to actually get a relatively clean race, or 3 relatively clean races. But we saw we just saw it on the broadcast here, the early part of the race. You opted to start from the pit lane. What was your thinking behind that, or was it you were late to the server or something like that? What was your thinking behind that?
I've been debating it all night, to be fair. Qualified like mid-grid, and I thought first corner at Montreal so tight was going to be chaos. First race there wasn't, second race there wasn't in the first couple of corners anyway, so I thought I'm 10th from the back, let's just keep it clean and see what happens. And then the safety car come out perfectly for me, and then I could just work my way forward from there. So it's an idea that was there all night, to be honest.
You're doing very, very well in the AM category championship, it's got to be said, and it seems that pit stop was a bit of a masterstroke from you. You must feel at this point the championship, the AM category championship, should we say, is on for you. So what's coming into tonight, and compare it to going forward now? What's your motives going to be? Because so far you've kept your nose out of trouble and you're doing very well to pick up the results. So what would be your motives going forward for the AM category championship?
Probably just keep going as I am. I mean, Paul and Tom are the main 2 who have been doing every round. Mark Arrowsmith is creeping up there as well. But just aim to beat them 2 in each and every race, and that's why at the end of that race I just let Ollie go, because there just wasn't much point. And yeah, just keep it consistent really, and keep it clean, because as we've seen in nearly every race, there's a few drivers who like to take a dive bomb, and it's just caused a few incidents, and I just look far enough ahead to judge that. So that's my whole aim of the thing, just keep it clean and I'll pick up the places anyway.
So we got Daytona next. What's your feelings for that track?
I like it. I do like Daytona. It's going to be a very slipstream fest of half a lap at least. But it is a bit wider than the first few corners here, so we do have a bit of a chance of having cleaner starts and that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's just about keeping it clean, as I said all the time. So
yeah. And lastly, before you shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? Sponsors, family, friends, fans, etc.?
I'll give a shout out to my wife, who's actually designed my new logo for my streaming platform. So that's a Motorsport Magpie. That'll be all kinds of sports and stuff. So that'll be my shout out, and to you guys for streaming.
No problem at all. And thank you, Dave, for providing great entertainment. We'll see you next time at Daytona. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
That was Dave Whitehouse. Quite a night for him, wasn't it, Paul?
Oh, indeed. I think he's very pleased with how the night went. And I think it's one of those cases where he's just able to, as he was saying himself, just keeping it out of trouble. And I'm very aware of the fact that there were going to be the high likelihood of incidents and making sure he wasn't the one to be involved in. And I do like, it's almost as if he's playing a game of chess, really. He's thought out already about 5 moves in advance. And he knows, OK, I'm going to get the win at the end of the race because I'm going to keep it clean and keep it safe at the start of the race.
And the next interview we're going to pull in is the driver we're looking at on the stream right now. We are going to pull in Lee Horn for an interview. Lee Horn, third race there was definitely your highlight of the night. Close, but just not quite there. Just talk us through the final moments of that race.
Yes, very exciting. I really enjoyed that after the disaster of race 2 and getting caught up in things I shouldn't have really been part of and weren't my doing. Bit disappointing with a reasonably good result for the first race. So yeah, coming towards the end there, I knew he was in the pro category and I'm in the pro-am category, so as much as I really wanted to win overall, I wasn't going to risk not finishing. So I didn't let him by, but I made it difficult when he got by, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to have my go at the end. And as you guys probably saw, just with a bit of brake fade at the end there, I overshot the chicane, and it gave me a 1.6 second time penalty. And I just looked at my rear view mirror and thought, I can't lose another place. So off the power, waited, got down to about 0.6 and then planted it, and it carried on coming down just before the line. So very relieved, but very happy to take a Pro-Am win and a second place overall. So.
It all bodes well for the championship. I mean, not everyone, I don't think anyone actually had the perfect night tonight, but it all bodes well for the championship. You're doing very well in the championship, only 7 points behind Craig Cockrell coming into tonight. And it looks like you could be the championship leader in the Pro-Ams after tonight. So with the first third of the season gone already, how is your mind going to change as you head into the future rounds now?
Well, I think Craig might have had some issues tonight, Craig Cockrell, who was leading, and I'm not sure that he's even raced. Aaron, obviously, I was joint points with, and he's had a disaster tonight. Again, not really through his own doing, to be fair. So for capitalising on the maximum points, brilliant. For moving forward after the first third of the season, well, I never expected to be in this position. So it's just to hang on with... hopefully with some confident driving and see how the second third of the season goes. I seem to be punching a little bit above my own standards, but then that's maybe me being a bit too critical of myself. But yeah, I'm going to try and plough on as we are, I think. That'd be great.
Well, if I know rightly, apart from Jeff Perkins, you're one of the most decorated drivers in NXTGEN, so don't write yourself off too much. But before you head off, Lee, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? Sponsors, fans, friends, family, etc.?
Usual, all the sponsors obviously for the league. Mark Sykes Design, Thrustmaster and Fastar and PowerMax and Joyce Design, and as you see all the logos, Next Level and R&D of course. But and yeah, thank obviously for the people for watching and getting involved and supporting us, and obviously to you guys for putting on a good show for everyone.
No problem at all, no problem at all. The pleasure's all ours. But yeah, Lee, good win in that final race there, good winning category there. We'll see you next time at Daytona.
Nice one. Thanks, guys.
So that's 2 interviews under the belt. So, Paul, Lucky Dip, who do you want to interview next?
Well, I would be very keen if I believe that is McGregor there in the waiting room. It'd be good to hear from McGregor, particularly on his debut, to see what he thought and what he's looking forward to at Daytona.
Absolutely. So we'll... Paul Walsh will give the interview here. I believe we've pulled in Rob McGregor, your debut tonight. Bless you. How not quite the best night, and probably not the dream night, debut night you hoped for. But just talk us through the events of tonight.
Yeah, race 1 was pretty decent. I think it came from 24th to 12th, and then started pulling the second race, and then ended up getting damaged, so I had to pit. And then ended up starting pulling the third race, and yeah, it was just a bit of a kind of a cluster crash best kind of thing. So hey, these things happen, but the next one, I suppose, isn't it? So.
Oh, indeed. But thinking about the race as a whole, particularly looking at race 1 where you're able to deploy your pace in full, how did it feel out there compared to your peers in terms of your relative pace? Because at the moment, of course, you're classified as part of the ProAm class, but of course that's subject to confirmation from the organisers. But how was the pace around Gilles Villeneuve for yourself? Did it feel comfortable, or was it one of those situations where you're trying to make the best of a circuit that perhaps wasn't quite up to your standard?
I felt comfortable. I quite like driving the MX-5s on here, so it wasn't anything like confusing to me. But yeah, I felt comfortable with the pace. I just couldn't get a good qualifying lap in because the tow around here is just unreal. Like you could be 2 seconds back from someone on the final straight, and then be right on their bumper as you go into the Wall of Champions, so the final chicane. So it's a hard track because there's so many places where you can gain speed, but if you drop out of the toe of someone, then you've got no chance. So yeah, it's just one of these tracks. But
and now looking from what is Gilles Villeneuve to what is the American circuit of Daytona Road Course in a week's time, how are you feeling for the American circuit?
Yeah, so I've done Daytona in a couple of weeks before in the Mazdas. And obviously it's great for the Mazdas in real life as well, so it's good. It's going to be challenging. The grid's quite a challenging grid, so we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, could be better tonight. So.
Oh, that's great to hear, Robin. Before we let you go, any words that you'd like to say to any of the viewers, or any special shout-outs that you'd like to give?
Just hope everyone's keeping safe, through this hard time. And I hope everyone had a great New Year and a great Christmas together with their families. I would also like to give out a shout out to Hill's Motorsport team and John Higgins and my dad Andrew McGregor, because without them I wouldn't be here. So yeah, it's one of them things. But cheers for having us on, and I'm sure I'll catch you again soon. Right?
Oh, most definitely. And that's very sweet and kind words for yourself there. I'm sure they'll be appreciated by all watching, and we're very grateful to have you, and we look forward to seeing you take to the American tarmac in a week's time.
Yeah, looking forward to it, man. Cheers for it.
All the best.
Well,
that was absolutely fantastic to hear from Rob there. It does seem a bit of a sentimental chat, but at the same time also a thoroughbred racer.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're seeing the pictures here, and this was the moment that really ended his chances of a good position in race 3. He hit the Wall of Champions, all his own doing really, and it just sort of put what could have been a fairly dream debut for him really by the wayside. He finished 29th in the end in this race, unfortunately, but I don't think we've seen seen the best of Rob McGregor yet. Who knows, in a few future races luck might come his way, we might see that. But yeah, all to be continued further on into the season. We've got time for one more interview, ladies and gentlemen, so do stick around. And this one I'm looking forward to. We are going to pull in Jamie Dory here. He was our Race 2 winner, and it's the first time he's won this season. Jamie Dory, Race 2 winner. Just talk us through how you felt after that brilliant win there.
Yeah, well, it was good. It's nice to be on the top step. Obviously, with how things have gone, it's so equal, it's just the luck of the draw. So yeah, I'll take that one.
Absolutely you will. And it was quite a few battles in that race 2 there, and they all just sort of squabbled with one another. At any point, did the pressure really sink in there, or was it all part of the plan?
Not really. Not really. The only mistake I made was the first chicane. I got a slow down at one point. That was just my wrongdoing. It's quite hard to get these cars through the gears quite quickly, down through the gears, that is, sorry. So sometimes you're going to be in a second gear corner and you're actually in third. So yeah, I took too much speed and had to take a bit of a short line through the chicane, so I got quite a hefty slowdown. Hence what P2 caught up on me, but I was quite happy with the pace of the car.
Good stuff. You're actually doing rather well in the Pro Category Championship. I think this might see you into the top 5 in the Championship. My maths might be completely way off. My spreadsheet skills are better than my maths skills. But you're doing rather well in the Championship. So, was this expected of yourself? And how does that shape how you're going to target the rest of the season?
Well, it's just about not necessarily winning them all, but just being consistent, trying to stay out of trouble with these cars. I think it's going to be continued with the remainder of the season. I mean, we've got some really fast pro guys in who are starting to find their feet. We're quite lucky this week, or unlucky that Mikey wasn't able to make it, and obviously Bobby wasn't here. 2 very fast guys, so you just capitalise when you can, when they're involved in incidents, and try and stay out of trouble and bag those points, really.
Absolutely. Daytona next week. What's your feelings for that track?
Slipstream.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a case of I'm going to have to speak to the rest of the next gen cars and get into being on a train. It's just going to be a slipstream. Expect 4 or 5 wide, I reckon, down the start finish line.
L plan. So you are the league host. I do feel like a couple of words need to be shouted out by our league host for putting on these great races. Big grids here, our biggest grid of the season, and it continues to be over 30 cars. So any last words before we shoot off here, Jamie, to sponsors, fans, friends, drivers, etc.?
Thanks to all the drivers, obviously, and everyone who watches the streams and everyone who's involved in it. They wouldn't be here without them all. We'll always look at growing and becoming bigger and better. Going forward, obviously, we look for more, and let's try and iron out some of these silly mistakes that are happening, especially this week, and learn to improve as well as grow.
Absolutely. Well, Jamie, thanks very much. We'll see you in 1 week's time at Daytona.
Thanks, guys.
There we go, Paul. So, final thoughts.
Well, it was a bit of a day at the races, if you don't mind me using the old proverb, and I do think it's one of those situations at Gilles Villeneuve where, with all the field returning to the tarmac after what was the Christmas break, I think there were some drivers who were a little bit more clued up compared to others. Indeed, a lot of fantastic racing, but as Jamie was saying, there's some mistakes which do need to be ironed out, but fantastic racing across all 3 races, and really will Gilles Villeneuve in the end put our drivers through their paces in terms of those braking points. And now we've got to look forward to Daytona in a week's time, which will be the big slipstream scenario that everybody will either be absolutely loving or absolutely hating. I can tell you from my racing experience, I'm not a fan of slipstream. I'm sure there'll be some drivers in the field who'll be feeling the same as me.
Well, I do love my IndyCar racing, so it's not quite IndyCar racing with the Mazda MX-5s. ProAms is probably the closest, but between the two. But lots of slipstreaming next week. There's going to be a lot of bump drafting. There's going to be a lot of 4 wide and 3 wide situations. It's going to be very, very interesting. Of course, it clashes with the iRacing, partially clashes with the iRacing Daytona 24 Hours. So a very fitting venue for our next round of the championship. But tonight's racing, this is the schedule we're looking at right now that's going to press on for the rest of the season. Next week, as we mentioned, we're at Daytona, and then in 2 weeks' time, we're at Bathurst, 2 legendary tracks to see us out for the first half of the season. We're very, very much looking forward to it. Tune in around about 7:45 UK time next week to catch all the action as it happens. But in the meantime, this has been myself, Alex Everett of Crest Autosport, and Paul Walsh of TX141. You've been watching on either Twitch, Crest Autosport, YouTube, Crest Autosport, or NXTGEN Racing Facebook page live. This has been the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup Round 4 at Montreal, the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. Our race winners tonight were Deegan Fairclough, Jamie Dory and Nick Clibbins. We'll see you next time at Daytona Road Course. Thank you for watching.